Part 51. About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tiu Lan. Chapter 508. Continue heading north. Leave Niigata City, enter the jurisdiction of Murakami City, and drive onto Prefectural Road number 345. From here on, it is the real coastal road. On one side is the vast sea, on the other side is the peaceful rural farmland. Motorcycles were speeding along the road along the coastline, the waves were gently lapping at the distant strait, and the sun was shining goldenly, and the sky and ocean were all blue. Sakakibara opened the mask of his helmet and felt the freshness and coldness of the sea breeze. He stared at the distant sea level and the bright sun hanging above. He seemed to be able to take advantage of the seabirds flying parallel to the sponge. Looking to the end of the world. Enjoying the warmth of the wind and the sun shining on his body, Sakakihara felt that this was what he felt was refreshing. He slowed down and came to Tianhai Kaimingyu, who was riding a cruising Harley. July. With her hands on the high handlebars of the motorcycle, a helmet on her head, and a pair of London Bridge-style sunglasses, Tianhai Kaimingyu slowly turned her head. The girl's beautiful long flaxen hair flows behind her. Coupled with the black cycling clothes she was wearing, Raku Sakakihara even smelled like the daughter of a gangster boss in her. Seeing her turn around, he smiled and continued to shout to her. Will there still be seagulls in winter? Tianhai Kaimingyu raised her head and glanced at the seabirds on the sea level, then returned her gaze to the front, and then replied. Black-tailed gulls and white-faced gulls, there's a good chance they'll migrate here in December. What? I can't hear you. The wind noise is too loud. I said. Those are black-tailed gulls and white-faced gulls. They are likely to migrate here in December. That's it? So why are there seagulls in December? Sister Kiyo. Brother is teasing you. Don't listen to him, Sakakihara Suzu shouted loudly from behind. Ha ha. Speaking of which, the scenery here is very good. How about everyone come down and take a photo together? Everyone has no objection to this suggestion. After catching up with Tianhai Yuli at the front and honking the horn twice to remind her to stop, the group of people stopped the car. In order to get the best photo effect, everyone lined up their motorcycles to correspond with Hai Pingman, and then everyone took a few group photos and a few solo photos. Suzu Sakakihara acted in a cute style, pulling Amami Nazuki. Her movements were as close as two good sisters. At Sakakibara Raku's suggestion, Amami Nanamajetsu and Amami Kuruori posed standing next to their motorcycles and looking at each other. The camera was very close and very symmetrical. If it weren't for the fact that the two people's motorcycles were different, it would be easy for people to mistakenly think that this photo is simply a mirror image copied to the opposite side. Sister Kiyo. Sister Kiyo. Look at this, I look so handsome astride the motorcycle. Sister Chan, you've done it again. What? He's really handsome, okay. What do you think, Sister Liuli? Let me see. How about it? Amami Kuruori did not answer with words, but held the camera and kept comparing the characters in the photos with Sakakibara Raku in front of him. Hee brother, you are handsome. Well, Lejun is really handsome in this picture. What do you think of Yuki? Tianhai's Higsu also leaned her head over, stared at the camera and nodded blankly, handsome. Suzu Sakakihara immediately took out her phone and turned on Bluetooth transmission. I want to tweet this. Sister Chan, you are an idol. It's okay, it's okay. Everyone knows my brother anyway. Didn't I thank him at the concert that day? Everyone will think that I respect my brother. Sakakibara crossed his arms and nodded to himself. In fact, he bullies his elder brother every day. No. Bro, how about a few more photos of the two of us? A back-to-back super cool pose. It's whatever. After taking photos at the beach, the group continued to set off. Facing the driving breeze, Sakakihara Suzu happily hummed. No matter how many times I reincarnate, I still want to meet you. Thank you for giving me this feeling. I will never forget my favorite. The singing voice is nice and the style of music is quite light. Tianhaijuli Yulai seemed to know this song too. After hearing his younger sister Zhang singing in front, he quickly sang along with her. I can already see your thoughts from the profile of your face. The scenery of the street we walked together shows the phantom of us holding hands. Sakakihara Raku had never heard of these songs, but thought they sang quite nicely. When we stopped to eat at noon, Raku Sakakihara learned from her sister that they were singing Best of My Love, the second ed of the anime song Space Battleship Yamato. Brother is so stupid, he is still a boy, but he doesn't watch as many dramas as sister Liulai. I'm busy. Speaking of which, bro, you haven't sung a song with me yet. In the past, when you were in a band, you just played bass in the corner. What? Want to do a singing competition at KTV? Brother, are you scared? Haha, I will definitely kill you. That's how it was decided. So after finishing their lunch early, they rode to Akita City in one go. Nearly 290 kilometers, nearly 3,000 yen. Motorcycles have to charge 10 yen per kilometer on the expressway, which is quite expensive. There were no tents set up tonight, so a few people headed to the KTV. Then Tianhaikaimingu watched the two brothers and sisters singing in a very speechless manner until 1 o'clock in the morning. The two of them really didn't have the energy to sing before they gave up. What kind of Christmas is this before the winner can be determined? Got up early on the third day. Because we had to take the ferry to Hokkaido at 10 o'clock today, a few people woke up at 6 o'clock. I also said that I would like to see Akita dogs in Akita City. How many Akita dogs are there in Tokyo? Let's go to Sapporo first. It seems that my father and aunt are flying over today. Sakakihara Suzu yawned, so fast. Tianhaijuli Yulai thought for a while and said, Dad still takes care of spending time with my aunt during the holidays. It's strange. I always feel that my uncle is very good to my mother, but he doesn't seem to have a good relationship with us. Tianhaikaimingu directly asserted, Dad doesn't know how to get along with young people, just like Grandpa. Just because he called us last night shows that they still care about us. Oh. What about my brother? Why didn't you see my brother? Brother and Yuki went to buy breakfast together. Let's pack our things first and leave immediately. Okay. But I'm so sleepy. Let my brother buy you some energy drinks. At 9:30 noon, several people arrived at the port of Aomori City on time. Passenger cars, trucks, large trucks, and container ports are just such things gathered together. Because several people were going there on motorcycles, we took the ferry with them. Ticket price is 20,000 yen. Sakakihara Raku and several others drove a motorcycle onto the ferry deck, and crowded on the ferry with a group of passenger cars and trucks. Yuki, it seems to be the first time to take this kind of boat. So as soon as the ferry started moving, she lay down on the side of the boat and looked at the sea. What a big sky! Can Yuki see the edge of the sea? I can't see it, but it's so beautiful and fun. What's wrong? After death, will people go to such a beautiful place? Why do you suddenly ask this question? Dad called me yesterday and asked me what I want this year. I hope my mother can always be in such a beautiful place. Christmas has just passed. Speaking of which, Yuki's birthday falls within these 2 days. Tianhai's Higsu doesn't seem to mention her birthday very much. She cares less about this day than Kyo and Liulai in the past. Raku Sakakihara looked at her long hair blown by the sea breeze, staring at her thin and petite figure against the sea, revealing inexplicable emotions in his heart. For Yuki, her birthday is also the anniversary of her mother's death. The old man told him before that when Yuki came out, her mother had already lost her breath. Mother and daughter have never even met each other. Yuki misses his mother. Yes, I really want to, Tianhai's Higsu said, staring at the sea. I also really want to talk to her. I'm sorry that I can't help you with this matter, Yuki. Happy. Here I am. Le is already doing very well. I am very happy now. Le will often take time to accompany me and give me gifts and clothes. What gift do you want for Yuki's birthday in 2 days? Or what wishes do you have? Desire. Right. Dad gives me a lot of gifts every year, but in fact, as long as he remembers to take time to visit me, it will be fine. The same goes for Le. My biggest wish is to maintain the status quo. For some reason, Sakakibara feels that Yuki's thinking is much sharper than before. He walked forward and came to Tianhai's Higsu, bent down, and lay on the edge of the boat with her, watching the sea together. The boundless ocean shows the vastness of deep blue. The afterglow of the sun forms a golden light track on the water, like a golden path leading to the blue sky. The slightly salty sea breeze brings a salty taste from afar. Lying like this without saying a word, Sakakihara turned his head and glanced at the girl next to him with a beautiful face and clear eyes. He suddenly felt that Yuki would look at the sea with him with the same eyes a few decades later, right? Is this considered a lifelong wait for her? Asterisk. The ferry took 4 hours to reach Hakodate. At around 2:10 in the afternoon, several people continued riding for 3 hours and arrived in Sapporo ahead of schedule. There were still more than 2 hours before the parents got off the plane, so there was no need to camp, so the few of us simply found a hotel in the city to stay temporarily. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the plane arrived on time. Several people went to Chitose Airport to pick them up together. Mom was dressed very nicely, as if she was going on a trip. Why is Mom so good at dressing up now? What nonsense are you talking about? Uncle Sakakibara Raku looked at his uncle and he was still wearing a suit. Does he need to be so formal when traveling? Ah, Shigenori has work to do tomorrow. He originally planned to land in Hakodate. Sapporo happened to coincide with his business trip, so we went to Sapporo together. Is it cold for you to come here on a motorcycle? Huh. I heard it snowed heavily over there in Niigata Prefecture. It's cold. It's extremely cold. There's not much snow, but it's quite beautiful. Shimonori Amami glanced at the night sky in Hokkaido and said, it seems like it will snow in Hokkaido these days. Be careful when riding your motorcycle. Remember to put on anti-skid tires on your tires, and don't drive too fast. After Tianhaime greeted her classmates, she looked at Tianhai's Higsu with a smile. Did you have a happy Christmas in Higsu? What did you do yesterday? Tianhai's Higsu answered truthfully, Cannel and Ling sang duet all night. Tianhaime he was obviously stunned, you guys went to KTV to sing on Christmas. Sakakihara Suzu smiled, hee. Sakakihara Raku and his sister were quite embarrassed because the two of them basically didn't have much fun in Akita City yesterday. I originally planned to go shopping in the city and eat local specialties. As a result, everything came to nothing because of singing. But Tianhaimadian said, that's good, it saves me running around at night. After saying hello to their children, Tianhaimai he summoned Tianhai Kaimingyu and Tianhai Juli Yulai to express their condolences. Ask questions such as is it too cold to ride a motorcycle, is it dangerous to ride a motorcycle, did Raku Sakakibara take you racing? Mom's tone is exactly like asking her daughter-in-law. He also asked two people at the same time how their relationship with Sakakibara Raku is recently, and whether he has made you angry or anything like that. Mom has completely accepted the status quo. Now she is probably planning on waiting for a few of them to reach adulthood so that she can have grandchildren, right? Sakakibara took a special look at the uncle beside him. His expression was normal and he couldn't see anything wrong. It seems that my uncle has probably fully accepted the fact that the relationship between the two of them is true. When my mother talks about the relationship between the two of them, he can keep his face straight. Several people came on motorcycles. It was also to pick up the two adults at the airport and take them back to the pub. Mom sat on the tail seat of Tianhaijuli Yulai. His uncle was sitting in the back seat of Sakakibara Raku. There has been little communication in the past 2 months. Sakakibara knew that his father-in-law wanted to take the opportunity to ask about the status of several people. Have you followed my requests during this time? All right. Not bad. Amamai Shigenori did not speak further. Sakakibara Raku, who was concentrating on driving his motorcycle, understood that his uncle had guessed everything. The uncle was probably too lazy to say anything and changed the subject. What's the relationship between Zhigzhu, Kyo, and Li Yulai? Uncle Zhigzhu must know about Zhigzhu's situation, and he also understands that Zhigzhu will most likely be following a few people from now on. Both Kyo and Li Yulai chose to accept Yuki. I haven't said anything to you or complained about anything. Not at all. They usually take special care of each other. Amamai Maidani was silent again in the back seat. I think Zhigzhu's condition improved a lot only by following you. This choice is also the best result. The old man has now completely accepted the status quo. Then Grandpa also knows about the relationship between Kyo Li Yulai and me, right? What you think? Then you must know. Amamai made Nori, it can only be said that the old man is turning a blind eye. He must be angry to death, but due to the relationship between Zhigzhu and me, he has nothing to do with you. He can only compromise. Grandpa still cares about his family. The old guy has softened his heart, and so have I. Since you think this is right, then it's up to you. Well, I'm too lazy to talk about these things anymore. What are your plans next? Sakakibara told his uncle about the driving routes of the next few days. After hearing this, my father-in-law said that he would take his mother to visit Sapporo in the next 2 days, and then they would meet up in Asahikawa City to go skiing there, and then go to Lake Kushiro to soak in hot springs or something. By the way, who do you plan to choose when you get married? As the heir to the Tianhai family, the wedding must be held publicly. How? Uncle, can I not answer this question first? About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 509. Today is the 4th day since I left home. The area is Sapporo, a city located in the western part of Hokkaido Island. The largest city on the island of Hokkaido naturally has many titles: the capital of snow country, a food paradise, the 5th largest city in Japan, and the city that never sleeps in the north. Raku Sakakibara's first impression of this place when he woke up in the morning was that there was a lot of snow here, too much, too much. As far as the eye can see, there is thick snow. The city was covered, the roads were covered, the cars on the roadside were covered, and the 2-meter-high signboards of stores were also buried by 1/3 in the snow. With this thickness, if you step on it, you can completely disappear into the snow. Raku Sakakihara looked down from the window of the hotel and could see many adults near the residential building shoveling the snow in front of the door. On the street in the distance, there seems to be a special vehicle dedicated to clearing snow from the road. Will the snow be so thick this night? Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. There was a sudden loud knock on the door. Brother. Brother. Get up quickly. Snow. It's so heavy snow outside. Sakakibara walked over and opened the door. Old Sakakibara Suzu laughed when she saw the neatly dressed Sakakibara Raku, and at the same time kept poking her head towards the bed behind him. It turns out, brother, you are already awake. Sakakibara stretched out his hand to fix her left and right head probes in place. Okay, stop looking around. Your sister Li Yulai and sister Kyo didn't sleep with me tonight. Sakakihara Suzu's interest suddenly dropped, and at the same time she was confused. when we go on a trip, brother, why don't you sleep with them? You think I don't want to? My uncle and mother are not here yet. It turns out I was afraid that my uncle would find out I thought you had turned into a fish again, brother. A vein twitched on Sakaki Hararaku's forehead. You keep calling me every day, come back and find another chance to deal with you, this bastard girl. Humph, I'm not afraid of the threat from brother Zanjio. Oops. Let's not talk about this anymore. It's snowing heavily today. Does brother have any plans? Arrangement? Doesn't the arrangement mean that we continue to Asahikawa City? Ah no, it's only our 4th day here. How about taking a walk around Sapporo? I've never seen such heavy and so much snow. The scenery here is also very different from Tokyo. Sakaki Harasuzu began to break her fingers. Besides, brother, look, so much snow suddenly fell last night, it's hard to ride our motorcycles. At least we have to wait until the city staff clears the snow on the road before we set off. Right. I've seen the local news. The snow in the city needs to be cleared for more than an hour, and it won't be completed until 8:30. There is so much to be cleared in the city, so don't the roads leading to various areas have to be cleared? More time? Shouldn't we set off now or just waste time sitting in traffic? Sakaki Harasuzu smiled cutely at him again. So, instead of wasting time getting stuck in traffic at the intersection, we might as well stay here for 2 days, see the snow in the capital of snow country, and then go to fun places to play. Anyway, my mother and uncle are here too, it's good for everyone to get together when eating. This girl. In order for everyone to stay and play in Sapporo for a day, a lot of homework has been done. Sakakibara turned around and looked out the hotel window. The snow on the roadside was probably as thick as half a person's height, right? Indeed, even if we can wait for the snow in the urban area to be dealt with, we cannot wait for the city government to clear the snow on other roads. Brother, how about it? My proposal is very good. Okay, wake up Kyo, Liuli and Yuki, have breakfast together, inform mom and uncle, and then we can go and have some fun on our own. Oh yeah. Sakaki Harasuzu raised her right hand, turned around, and immediately ran to the next room and knocked on the door. Sakaki Hararaku was watching her movements and figure in the corridor of the hotel. He felt in his heart that Asuzu was a real optimist, immersed in her favorite happiness every day. If there is something fun every day, there is something delicious every day. She should live a carefree life, right? Asterisk. Get dressed and dine in the hotel. The seafood in Hokkaido is indeed good and delicious. Dairy products are the most delicious dairy products Sakakibara has ever seen. It was so delicious that when Raku Sakakibara decided to leave, he packed up a bunch of them and took them back. After finishing breakfast, they officially went out. As soon as I walked out of the hotel door, the cold air mixed with heavy snow rushed towards me. Suzu Sakakihara was wearing a cotton coat, a thick scarf, and thick gloves, looking up at the sky. It's still falling. Amami Yuki, who was dressed similarly to her, saw Sapporo in the snow for the first time, and her eyes widened. Lots of snow. Yuki said that there are many Yuki here. Surprisingly interesting. Tianhaijuli Yuli curiously walked down the steps of the hotel door and stepped on the thick snow. She fell a third of the way in and almost stumbled. Amami Kaimingyu patiently warned her on the steps, "Sister, be careful. The snowfall in Sapporo in December can reach a depth of 1.5 meters. Don't get stuck in it as soon as you step in." Tianhaijuli Yuli stared at his feet curiously. There wasn't so much snow when we came yesterday. How come there's so much snow all of a sudden? Because this is Sapporo, the capital of snow country. Car. Ah. My car is buried in the snow. Amami Nanami's eyes followed Sakakibara Suzu's anxious steps, and then the girl turned her head and said calmly, "Of course, Sister, too much snow is not necessarily a good thing. Asterisk. Raku Sakakibara has very little impression of Hokkaido and has never been there. Some of them just used to make jokes about their classmates in Hokkaido when they were in elementary school. They would ask him, "Are there bears in your place in winter?" Seong Sakakihara didn't see it, but there were a lot of cars. It should be said a lot. Basically, there are vehicles parked in front of every house. This is something you will never see in Tokyo. Having lived in Tokyo for decades, Sakakibara fully understands that 70% of Tokyo residents rely on public transportation such as trains and subways. There are many reasons for this. First, Tokyo is too densely populated and driving out is not as fast as taking public transportation. Second, the parking fee in downtown Tokyo is outrageous, 10 minutes costs 200 yen. Third, land in urban Tokyo is very expensive, and there are very few houses with private parking spaces. It is precisely because of this that Tokyo's above and underground tram system is particularly complex and rich. And what about Sapporo? Sakakibara looked at it for a long time and found that there were only 3 railways in the city: Hakodate Line, Chitose Line, and Sanuma Line. It seems that more than 50% of the daily travel of citizens here relies on family cars. As for the reason, Sakakibara specifically asked about his own encyclopedia, Tenkai 7 Bright Moons. The answer given by Tian Haikaimingu is very simple. Anyone who has stayed in Sapporo for a few days in winter will understand the same fact. There is too much snow outside in Sapporo. No one wants to spend more than 10 minutes walking to the tram stop under heavy snow in winter. It is better to open the car door when you go out and get into a heated car to feel more comfortable. As for motorcycles, on a cold day with such heavy snow, only a ghost can open it. Sakakibara and several others unanimously decided to call a taxi to go to the scenic spot. Although it was a trip, I was actually traveling with my girlfriend. Come to the famous check-in spot in Sapporo City, Tanuki Koji Shopping Street. Amamai Juri was suddenly interested in a delicate little glove, so Sakakihara enthusiastically accompanied her to go shopping and bought her a small gift. Naturally, Tian Haikaimingu is also needed. Ignoring either of them is a very bad behavior. Then I have to buy 2 gifts, 2 hot milk teas, and 2 of the famous Shiroi Koibito chocolates in the shopping street. Sakakibara Suzu, who had been following behind, looked weird when she saw Sakakibara Raku, and she couldn't help but complain. "Hey, I'm so busy, running around here and there. This is called managing time properly. Then, when I'm with my 2 sisters at night, do I also manage my time reasonably? Go, kid, don't ask questions. TCH, if you don't say it, don't say it. You still call me a child, but you know how to use children to talk about me every day, brother Zanjio. Just ignore it." This shopping street is quite unique. Almost every store is equipped with a bilingual shopping guide in Chinese and English. Sakakibara also saw the words "China Welcomes" written on the doorways of many stores. Sapporo is a tourist city, so of course it is written like this to sell local specialties. Make money, don't shiver. The next place to go is Hitsuja Jayaka Observation Deck. This scenic spot is located outside the city, so you can have a panoramic view of the entire Sapporo street scene and the wide Ishikari Plain. The snow-capped country has an unobstructed view. Looking far into the distance, you can also see the mountains and sea on both sides of Sapporo city. Half of the mountain and half of the sea, the city in the middle is completely covered in snow, and there are flat mountains and snowy fields nearby. The so-called beauty in the snow is nothing better than this, right? Sakakibara hurriedly took a group photo with a few people, and then made the same forward posture with him in front of the statue of Dr. Clark, the founder of Hokkaido, and shouted the famous saying, "Youth, be ambitious." It was both catchy and loud, causing many tourists around to look at them. Sakakihara Suzu felt quite ashamed. Brother, are you embarrassed? Tianhaijuli Yulai found it particularly interesting. Lejun was like this, always making bold moves in front of many people to make them laugh. Taking a walk in the snowy forest with everyone, Tianhaijuli Yulai looked up at the sky, watching the white snowflakes falling endlessly from the colorless and transparent sky. Through the snow in the sky, she remembered that her mother had taken her out to play in the same season in the past. Taking herself to see things she had never seen before. Playgrounds, toys, and cheese-baked potatoes that I often eat at Christmas. In the midst of the pure white scenery, the figure of her mother holding her hand as she walked in front was tall and reliable, and when she looked up she looked full of warmth. Now this figure has changed and turned into Lejun, who is walking in front. Looking at him and the long snow-colored stairs in front of him, Tianhaijuli Yulai suddenly felt that this was probably the so-called happiness, right? The girl took the initiative to reach out and hold him in the snow forest. As usual, as soon as you reach out to hold his hand, he will turn back and smile more friendly than usual. Because it was snowing heavily in Tokyo, the temperature was much colder than usual, and her hands were cold, so she held Raku Sakakibara tightly, and then approached him in small steps. Sakakibara took the hand that the girl offered him back, with the same smile on his face as usual, but when he looked at the girl, there was a hint of love in his eyes. Lejun. Carefully and tremblingly, he called the other person's name, and received a smile that was warmer than usual. What's wrong? You suddenly called me that. Tianhaijuli Yulai's steps became brisk, and she came to his side and walked side by side with him, her voice even a little playful. That's it? I just suddenly want to call you Lejun. No, Li Yulai must have had some purpose when he suddenly called me like that. He was so enthusiastic and took the initiative to come over and hold my hand. Raku Sakakibara observed the girl's face half buried in a thick scarf. Ruri, who was usually very generous and neat, now had an inexplicable shyness. He knew this look. People who are in love tend to know this. This is trying to be coquettish. Luli has to say what he thinks, right? Otherwise, if someone is so enthusiastic all of a sudden, I will be at a loss what to do. Nothing. What I have to say is that I suddenly want to ask Lejun to hold my hand. Just this. Tianhaijuli Yulai nodded seriously, just this. That's good. Today Lejun bought me small gifts and chocolates and so on. Lejun is also serious. Why do you always give me gifts? I told you that I gave it to you, Li Yulai, to make up for yesterday's Christmas gift? I don't usually have it, so don't think too much about it. Lejun didn't even receive a gift. Lejun didn't say what he liked, so I didn't even know what to give you. And I originally planned to give you a scarf this year, but I gave it to you in July. Sakakibara laughed, and the two of them walked up the stairs together. If you give it to Kyo, why can't you give it to Ruri? Then I'll give it to you. Lejun can't wear two scarves alone during the Chinese New Year. I'll suffocate you to death, Lejun. Then what should Li Yulai do? Isn't this what Lejun should be thinking about? Then Sakakibara thought for a moment and joked, how about Ruri giving herself to me? To be honest, I don't really like anything right now. What I like is Ruri and Ruri's heart that is worthy of my love. The air suddenly became silent. Tianhaijuli Yulai stopped and looked at him blankly for a few seconds before saying, sure. Sakakibara originally wanted to joke, Li Yulai, you are such an old girl, how can you give it to me so easily? After a while, she realized that what Li Yulai said was for herself. Ken. Yes, Tianhaijuli Yulai withdrew his gaze, looking up at the white snow in the forest with his sky-blue eyes. Don't Li Yulai want to wait until England? What do you think, Lejun? I think this is an obsession in Li Yulai's heart. Wrong. Tianhaijuli Yulai shook his head slightly and walked lightly. Lejun, in the past, I also thought that I always wanted to go to see the Maple Leaf Avenue that my mother mentioned. I really wanted to go. But as time goes by, as I get older, I gradually realize that I don't really like or want to go to Maple Leaf Avenue. In fact, it's just because my heart is empty and has no goals. And now, Lejun is my new goal. I hope Lejun is happy, and I also like Lejun to be happy. I also hope that Lejun can take me on a journey like today. Lejun, actually going to Maple Leaf Avenue is not the best choice. What's important is the person who can accompany me to that place. In the past, that person was my mother, but now, this person is Lejun. In the color of snow, Amamikuruori looked at Sakakibara Raku with a smile. From the day Lejun was willing to give me a hug, I already belong to you, Lejun. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 510. For Li Yulai, going to England is an obsession that will accompany her throughout her life. It was also her past pillar and goal. Day and night training and day and night persistence are all to meet her mother's requirements, because she knows that as long as she performs well enough, her mother will take her to the place she has always longed for and expected. But now, Li Yulai said that there were more important things than going to England. His words were simple and his tone was ordinary. His eyes were sincere and unquestionable. Having been with Ruri for so long, Sakakibara can see and feel it. This sentence is her true intention. How long ago could someone sincerely say these words to themselves? Words like "I have long belonged to you," Lejun, probably only exist in your imagination, right? Walking on the snow-capped mountain trails, the cold winter wind lingered around him. Sakaki Hararaku suddenly felt that the hand held in the center of his palm was delicate and warm. Really, Li Yulai, why are you saying these things? Ellie, Lejun sounds embarrassed. My whole body has long been yours. At first Li Yulai said this firmly and seriously, but now that she repeated it, the inside of her face turned red as if she had a fever, and her tone was very slight. Her sky-blue eyes were also filled with shame and confusion, and she didn't dare to look at him anymore. Her hands were obviously clenched a lot. I'm quite embarrassed. Lejun. But. Well, Lejun said. I am very grateful that Li Yulai can say these words to me, but Li Yulai should focus on herself now. Li Yulai does not belong to anyone, Li Yulai is Li Yulai, she is herself. As Li Yulai, she has what she likes people, there are people she wants to rely on, these are all Li Yulai's thoughts, not all of them mine. This was a bit convoluted, but Amamikuruori heard Sakaki Hararaku's original intention. He hopes that he can be independent and not dependent on anyone. His thoughts and actions are only based on the wishes of the personality of Luli. This is true for hating a person, liking a thing, hating a thing, etc. These words are very true. But Lejun is also true. Let's talk about these big principles at this time. What's wrong? Li Yulai, what I said is not right. Lejun is like this sometimes, he doesn't quite understand what people mean. Tian Haiju Li Yulai muttered in a low voice. What does Li Yulai mean? That's it? That's it? You see, Li Yulai said that I don't understand the heart, but when I asked patiently, Li Yulai couldn't say anything. So you can't blame me. It's just that Lejun is too stupid. Am I too stupid? Just too stupid. Sakaki Hara hesitated for a moment, and then combined with what Li Yulai said to him at the beginning, he instantly understood the other meaning of her words. Luli is saying that I can come to you and do whatever I want. No, what else? Sakaki Hara smiled again. It's true, Ruri, we are already so close, why are you still shy about talking about these things? What? What happened before is completely different from when it really happened. Huh? So, what's the difference? It's completely different the first time. The girl's voice became smaller and smaller. But to be honest, there is no difference. In fact, Li Yulai has not overcome the shyness in her heart to take the first step. The two of them had seen everything they should see and touched everything they shouldn't touch. But it was understandable that Li Yulai was shy. After all, this was in the suburbs. Ambiguity in private space and ambiguity outdoors are still different. For Li Yulai, it was impossible to tell anyone about this kind of thing. Not to mention that she still had the shadow of being frightened by a Ling's surprise last time. So Li Yulai means that I can do anything to you from today on. Of course you have to ask for my permission first. This is natural. So Li Yulai agrees now. The girl answered in a very weak voice, which made Sakakihara feel that she was much smaller than usual. He also understood that Li Yulai's agreement was equivalent to entrusting the only precious things in her body to him. Luli is small and cute. Can this be taken as you complimenting me? If not. Sakakibara smiled and gently held Ruri's curled little hands again, gently covering them and wrapping them. Li Yulai didn't resist at all, she just let him put her hand into his palm, and then held it tightly. Hold it a little longer. What's wrong? It's nothing. I just want Lejun to hold me tighter. It sounds like it's a request. This is a request, and it will make the envy of July later. Sakakihara couldn't help but laugh at her cute wishes and little thoughts. Why don't you usually be a little jealous? No, if you don't take it seriously, you won't be able to compare to July. The girl's voice was also soft, as if she was shyly asking herself to hold her hand a little tighter. At times like this, Sakakihara Raku truly felt that Ruri was too cute. It would have been nice to be able to show her some small kindness in the past. Sakakibara moved closer to the girl, hugged her tightly, stretched out his hand around her waist, and held her small hand in front of her cotton coat. Amamikururi leaned obediently against Sakakibara Raku's side, smiling as she walked in the snow-capped forest. Asterisk. Hey brother, you and sister Li Yulai were so tired just after you came down the mountain. Did you know that sister Kia was watching behind and she was so angry? Real. Of course, sister Kia is watching you from behind. Oh, sister Kia, don't pull my ears. Don't pull my ears. I really don't know what you are talking about all day. What? Sister Kia, you just eat it? I eat it? I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I was wrong. As soon as Sakakibara looked at the posture of the two of them, he knew that it was probably Isuzu who was talking nonsense. Does this count as sowing discord? No wonder Chi-Chi would twist a Ling's ears. Next on the itinerary is Hokkaido Shrine. In order to rush for time, several people arrived here quickly by car. Ruri, have you ever felt that all shrines across the country are pretty much the same? Emma, Gomarai, and a lottery for 200 yen. Yeah, it's exactly the same. Then there is nothing interesting here, it is just one more unique snow scene. It's worth taking photos as a souvenir. Brother, why don't you bring 2 Maiko costumes back to your 2 sisters, then I can stay at the hot spring hotel at night, eh? Why are you beating me? Raku Sakakihara had a serious face. I have random thoughts every day. What? Brother, you're not expecting it in your heart, Yuki, don't you think so, Yuki? Tianhai's Higsu stared at the woods in the distance. There is also a lot of snow here. Higsu heard that there were snow foxes in the woods behind the shrine and wanted to go and have a look. After going there, I was disappointed. I didn't see it at all. At noon, I simply ate some Hokkaido noodles and continued to wander around the shopping street in the afternoon. Compared with the characteristic cultural street, the commercial street is more suitable for them. They were shopping for clothes and shoes. Looking at their large and small bags, Sakakibara estimated that 80% of them would have to be sent back to Tokyo by courier. After going around and around, the time came at night. The Odori Park we went to at night was quite interesting. The park is filled with ice sculptures, lanterns, and various snowmen. Not to mention Suzu and Yuki, Sakakihara Raku has never seen such gorgeous ice sculptures. Aling likes snow very much. She couldn't play enough in the morning, but now she can. She dragged Zhigzu and Liuli to throw snowballs in the snowfield over there. She was taught a lesson by Chi-Chi in the morning. If Chi-Chi hadn't wanted to get her cotton-padded jacket stained by snowballs, he would have decided to fight her. Speaking of which, Aling may not be able to beat July, right? After all, Chi-Chi also learned kendo. Thinking about this, Sakakibara sat down on a bench in the park with Nanami, and watched a few people playing happily together. Liuli and Ailing threw snowballs at each other, and Ailing accidentally hit Yuki, who was trying to build 5 snowmen. Suddenly, it became a 2-on-1 situation between Zhigzu and Liuli. Ailing, who was hit by the snowball and ran away with her head in her arms, shouted it's not fair, but there was nothing she could do. Silently watching the fight of a few people, the bright neon lights of the city and the cold wind and snow became their background, and the 7 bright moons in the sky and sea felt like they were suddenly alienated from this world. It was Christmas yesterday. Tian Haikaiminyu was stunned for a few seconds after hearing the sound. What, your memory is already so bad? It's not that I have a bad memory, but I always feel like something was missing yesterday. What? Amami Nanamijiyo turned around and saw Raku Sakakihara pulling out an exquisite small keychain from his trouser pocket. The keychain fell quietly into his hand. Under the brilliant light reflected by the surrounding ice sculptures, the small stone shark on the keychain looked small and exquisite. As long as you take a closer look, you can see that the cartoon shark above is not a simple assembly line handicraft, but a work carefully crafted and outlined by a childlike master sculptor. It was so beautiful that when Tian Haikaiminyu saw it for the first time, she couldn't move her eyes away. When? I ordered it a while ago and it just arrived at noon today. It still looks like a stone sculpture made of pebbles. Yeah. Remember that rock you kicked under my feet on our first motorcycle trip? You used that to call someone. I just finished it and mailed it a few days ago. I originally planned to give it to you in Chiu on your birthday in Chiu, but the master of stone carving doesn't have that much time, so there is no way. Tian Haikaiminyu held the keychain in her hand and kept staring at the cartoon little shark. She remembered the style. How could she forget it? The prototype of the keychain still exists in the storage box in her bedroom. The shape of this little shark happened to be the cheap gadget that Raku Sakakihara gave to little Kiyo when they were separated for the first time when they were young. It was that gadget that she loved all her life. Tian Haikaimingyu's sky blue eyes stared at the keychain, silently holding the shark in her palm. Now that counts as a Christmas present. Well, and this is your only gift in July, in terms of specialness. Thanks. It should. This gift is very valuable. Sakakibara was surprised. How come you still have to consider the value of the gift in July? When I say valuable, I don't mean the material value of this item. But this gift is so valuable to me that I don't know what I should give you in return. I already said this is my apology. Your idea is very cute, Kaiyu. Besides, we have nothing to do with each other. Do we still need a gift in return? Need? Why? We are in a relationship. Just because they are in a relationship, we cannot ignore the emotional communication and exchanges between two people. Gifts need to be reciprocated, and thoughts and actions also need to be reciprocated. Even if they are lovers, there is no saying who should accept the other's gifts, and you should always accept gifts from each other. For example, on Valentine's Day, if you give me a gift, I will find a way to give you a gift in return. July is serious. It should be said that if she is not joking, most of the time she has this serious attitude. There is no need to return the gift. Chi-Chi, can you tell me the story of little Chi-Chi? Sakakihara smiled beside the girl. I rarely hear Chi-Chi you talk about your past self. Tian Haikaimingu looked at him seriously. Brother, there is nothing to say. Just know that she used to think of someone's agreement with her every night. Every night. Every night. Getting this answer from July is actually enough. Just because Xiao Qiu's obsession is deep enough, Qiu's love for herself is also deep enough now. Sitting on the bench and watching a few people throwing snowballs happily in the distance, Nanami held the keychain in her palm and leaned on Raku Sakakibara's shoulder unconsciously. What did your sister say to you this morning? Luli told me that going to England is no longer necessary. Tian Haikaimingu closed her eyes on his shoulder. Then what sister needs now is you, brother. Yes, Raku Sakakihara agreed softly. She said that whether she goes to England or not, the most important thing is that I am by her side. Does my sister also agree that we can do that kind of thing? Do you know, in July, my sister has let go of her mother. Her mother came to see us specially before, and her sister didn't show too much concern afterwards. For her, continuing to live with her brother and everyone is the meaning of life. So, it's natural for your sister to be willing to put everything on your shoulders. Heavy, and at the same time, Sakakibara Raku can still feel the responsibilities he will have to bear in the future. Where are you in July? Of course, the same thing. Because of her love for herself in Qiu, she had already given everything to him, right? Sakakibara was happy. Not only their love for themselves, but also their sense of responsibility for their happiness in the future. July. How about saying you like me again? Like you? Is it so casual? Because it's the truth, idiot. Do you want to have children in July? You feel? I think July is definitely what you want. For July, home is very important. And with a child, you will have something to cherish enough in July. Tian Haikaimingu closed her eyes. I don't know what you are talking about. As for precious things, aren't they right in front of you and around you? Then when Chi-Chi knew she was not pregnant a while ago, why was she still a little unhappy? I want a child. Maybe my past thoughts are at work. I always feel that I am a human being. I want a child to love me, and I love him enough. It doesn't matter now. Sakakihara smiled happily. Why? Tian Haikaimingu glanced at someone sideways, and then scolded, asking even though you know clearly. If you want to have a child after July, do you want a boy or a girl? Boy. Why? Girls will definitely stick to you, boys will stick to me. Isn't it good for girls? I would be jealous if a boy clings to you. That's perfect. Who told you to make me jealous every day? No, I have to have a girl. Boy. Girl. Boy. Girl. Boy. I won't argue with you in Qiu, so why don't you just give birth to a litter in Qiu? Then everyone will be happy. Are you treating me like a rabbit? I'm going to give birth to a whole litter and look for my sister. Then I'll have to go find Liulai alone tonight. You dare? About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Bulletin 11 Huan Tiu Lan. Chapter 511. Sapporo is only 140 kilometers away from Asahikawa City, but the wind and snow in Hokkaido at the end of December was really severe, which delayed the group a lot of time on the road. Enter Asahikawa City, located in central Hokkaido. This no longer has the bustling scenery of a metropolis like Tokyo and Sapporo, but is as sparse and low as a rural street market. It seems that the entire urban population here is only 330,000. On a snowy day in late December, there were almost no people on the snow-covered road. The shops I occasionally encounter are also closed. Sakakihara Suzu originally said that she would be able to replenish her supplies and rest as soon as she entered the city, but she didn't expect that she would have to continue driving to the city center. Everyone stopped temporarily to rest and clean the snow on their cars and luggage. Hi, it's so cold. Why does this place look like a ghost town? Where are the people? The further north we go, the less crowded we are, not to mention that we have to go to Lake Kushiro next, where there are even fewer people. Huh? There are even fewer people over there. Raku Sakakibara tied chains to the tires to prevent them from slipping. After all, the population of Sapporo, the largest city in Hokkaido, is only 1.1 million. People from Hokkaido are basically concentrated there. The further west you go, the fewer people there are. What's Asahikawa's rank? Asahikawa ranks second in Hokkaido. Huh. It looks just like the small towns around Tokyo. Is Hokkaido so poor? Tian Haikimingyu, who parked his car to rest at the other end, brushed the wind and snow off his leather jacket and explained. Hokkaido's population is dispersed and is dominated by agriculture, fishery and forestry. These traditional industries face considerable competition and market challenges in the context of globalization and technological development. Many regions have also failed to successfully achieve industrial diversification, resulting in overall the economy is unstable. Coupled with 5 months of winter every year and extreme weather, Hokkaido's overall development is quite lagging. Sakakihara Suzu listened half-consciously. Raku Sakakihara suddenly turned his head, looking through the helmet lenses and the snowflakes floating in the air. Suzu, I'm going to test you on a question, which happens to be geography knowledge. What? What is Sapporo's main source of income today? Yes. It's the tourism industry. Minazuki poked her head out from behind Sakakihara Suzu. Her head was enlarged even though she was wearing a white helmet. Yuki got the answer right. Raku Sakakihara suddenly narrowed his eyes in the helmet. Suzu. I didn't think of it for a moment. Haha. Sakakihara Suzu smiled and said haha, her eyes slowly moved to other places. Tenkai Nanamajetsu took over the conversation. The entire Hokkaido, except for the Sapporo metropolitan area, is very poor. The land here is barren and can only be supported by selling resources and underdeveloped tourism. The population is also aging very seriously, so the urban area here looks like an ordinary small town. Have all the young people gone to Tokyo? That's right. Isn't that similar to our hometown? My sister Chan is wrong. Matsuyama City has a good geographical location and an excellent climate. You only need to compare it with the urban area to understand that Matsuyama City's development is much better than Asahikawa. Tokyo is full of high-rise buildings, and you can also see many high-rise buildings in Sapporo. Asahikawa is basically a wide flat land. In other words, desolate. Driving into the city center, there is finally a supermarket still operating. A few people went in to replenish supplies, and took advantage of the fact that it was just past noon and continued towards Kusa Road. The further I rode my motorcycle, the more I realized that Hokkaido's road administration really has no money. National highways are getting narrower and narrower, and the roads are getting worse and worse. There are basically cracks in the cement, and sometimes there are pits. At first glance, it seems to be in a state of disrepair. Most probably no one has even complained, right? Leaving the city and driving out of Kamikawa town, we are basically in the wilderness. I couldn't see any other cars for a long time. There is a mountain on the right, and there is a mountain on the left. If you keep going, it will still be a mountain. The scenery along the way is only white with snow, and occasionally a train with a clanking sound passes quickly in the distance against the wind and snow. Several people did not dare to drive fast in the heavy snow, so they could only move forward slowly and slowly. Until Aling stopped in front. Raku Sakakibara saw the brake light on the rear of Alzu's car in front of him through the grey wind and snow. He also stopped the car and turned off the engine. After checking that Kyo and Liulai were behind him, he took off his mask and shouted to Aling in front. "What's wrong?" A few seconds later, Aling's voice came back through the cold snowy wind. "Brother. There's a lot of snow ahead. There's no road. No way." Sakakibara exchanged a look with Nanami, and then started the motorcycle again. Raku Sakakibara drove to Suzu Sakakibara's car, stretched out his hand to wipe the snow on his helmet, and looked forward through the helmet. Sure enough, there was a lot of snow. The road was blocked by heavy snow. The trees beside the national highway are integrated with the road surface, and the thickness of the snow is estimated to be about 1.5 meters. There is no way to drive through this thickness. Sakakihara Suzu looked around for a while, unable to make up her mind. What should we do? What should we do? Let's take a detour. Then we won't be able to reach Kitamai City at night. Sakakihara Raku silently stared at the road blocked by snow, spitting white mist from his mouth, and said lightly, "Thank God for being able to reach Ryahei." Reluctantly, several people had no choice but to turn back and head south on National Highway number 242. The road conditions here are okay, but not very promising either. Sure enough, after driving for less than an hour, the back road was blocked by snow again. "Brother. Let's change again. Liulai will lead the team here, and I will follow the team leader. It's snowy, so don't get separated." Oh. However, this time, less than 15 minutes later, the road was blocked again. The snow is too heavy. This is not an option. Tian Haikaimingu saw the seriousness of the situation. "What about the previous National Highway 211? Sister, haven't you noticed that the road is getting narrower and narrower? We have walked through the snow several times. If we go back, I'm afraid the road on that side will also be blocked." Sakakihara Raku's scalp felt numb for a while. Going out on a snowy day is definitely not a good idea. It was starting to get dark, and Sakakihara Suzu was a little nervous. "Brother, how about we find a way back to Asahikawa City?" Raku Sakakibara glanced at the time on his watch, then at the sky, and said, "It's too late. We can't even go back on National Highway 211. How can we still find our way back to Asahikawa? Moreover, the GPS signal here is not good. Then how about we find a place to set up camp? I'd really like to, but it's hard to say whether our small camp can withstand the snow in such a heavy snowy day. What should I do? I have 2 bars of oil left. Let's go further and see if we can find an abandoned wooden house or a school or something to set up camp." Helpless, a few people could only dig out the snow in front of them a little and continue moving forward. The scenery on the road is quite beautiful, with pure white snow. Especially occasionally you can see a big white mountain in the distance hidden in the wind and snow. It's just that it's getting darker and darker, and the temperature is getting lower and lower. Unconsciously, everyone drove into a village road that was not shown on the map. Continuing along the village road, I didn't see any villages again. Just at the end of the village road, we drove into a mountain road. This road was also not displayed on the navigation system. Sakakibara only knew that the group of people were currently on a curve halfway up the mountain, with a cliff on the side of the road. Amamai Kurayuri, who was in charge of taking the lead, stopped the car in front. Sakakihara Raku followed. She then turned around nervously and said, "Lejun, my mobile phone has no signal. Do you have one over there?" Sakakihara Raku quickly took off the phone from the phone holder and took a look. "No. Where's July?" "Without." Aling and Ji Shue's mobile phones also had no signal. Now the situation is troublesome. "Don't worry, just drive forward. There are no side roads anyway. No matter what, you can still drive to a small village." Sakakibara Suzu felt increasingly unsure. A small village in the mountains, Isn't it haunted? Sakakibara Raku was not frightened by her, but Nanami seemed to be concerned after hearing it from the side. Don't talk nonsense. Oh. He didn't want to blame Aling. No matter what, the current situation was indeed not optimistic. It was starting to get dark. The snow is getting heavier and heavier, and the road is getting narrower. Driving in the dark and snow is dangerous, let alone a car or a motorcycle. The road is covered with thick snow, and everyone can only push forward slowly at a speed of 15 kilometers per hour while driving up the mountain. The cold wind was mixed with the slight roar of the engine. The iron chains wrapped around the tires occasionally pressed against the branches hidden in the snow, making a crisp and dull sound. The time came at 12 o'clock in the morning. Even at such a slow speed, Sakakihara's tires still slipped twice on the uphill road. The fuel tank, which everyone refilled at the same time, was basically at the last level and kept flashing. It can probably be driven for about 60 kilometers. Now there are only mountains all around, and the GPS has completely lost its signal. Sakakihara Raku has no idea where his group is now. At night, the only place that car lights can illuminate, besides tree trunks, is the snow. In the current situation, Raku Sakakibara doesn't dare to let everyone continue to drive, especially as Suzu's car weighs more than 500 kilograms with luggage. If there is another uphill later, she will slip on the uphill road, and the back of her butt will. They are all cliffs, which are really dangerous. Even though there is still no open space for camping around, we have to stop now. Stopping the car on a gentle terrain, turning off the engine, Raku Sakakibara got out of the car. Only then did he realize that his feet were numb from the cold. He stepped on the snow and almost lost consciousness. Fortunately, the vehicle was upgraded before coming here. The motorcycle has a handlebar heating function. Otherwise, my hands would have been cold and red. The conditions of Aling, Jishui, Chi-Chi, and Luli are not very optimistic. It's not because of other reasons. It's because the temperature in Hokkaido in the early morning is too low. If we don't set up camp, we won't be able to survive the night smoothly just by wearing a cotton padded jacket. It's cold. It's so cold. It's a good thing that you still have the energy to shout. It's such a cold day. Brother, you still have to say sarcastic words. Are you going to set up camp? Suzu Sakakibara folded her hands on her chest, kept shrinking her legs, and rubbed her arms up and down. She even dared to take off her helmet. Right. There is no place here. The bare area is covered with thick snow. Who knows if it is a bush or a cliff? It would be better if there are trees to block it. It's not necessarily better to have trees. Maybe there's too much snow on the trees and it will fall down and crush our camp. Yes. Yes. I'm going to see if there's any more stable open space. Then be careful, don't miss the mark. Lejun, be careful. Fine. After nodding to everyone, Sakakibara took off his helmet, let out a sigh, took the flashlight in his bag and went to the woods on the mountain to see if there was any open space for camping. Walking around the woods, I found a wooden stick and carefully explored the path under my feet. This is the slope near the top of the mountain. Just as Aling said, if you are not careful, you may step on the bushes covered with snow. Rolling down a hill is no joke. Fortunately, God still has some conscience, and Sakakibara found a quite large open space. It is equivalent to digging a trapezoid uphill. This was probably a place where materials were dug out during road construction in the past. Although there are a lot of weeds under the snow, it can be used with a little clearing. And it's not far from the road. Sakakihara Raku immediately turned back and informed everyone of the news. After driving the car a little way back, start working together to set up camp. The 5 people got busy and set up camp very quickly, supporting the frame one by one and hammering in the ground nails. By the time I finished my work, it was already 1:30 in the morning. At this time, the sky was dark. The temperature is also really frighteningly low. Sakakihara Raku couldn't bear the temperature. Are you hungry? Sure, I must be hungry. Lighting a fire is now a must. The small gas bottle you bring is definitely not enough. Sakakihara had no choice but to shovel away the snow and dig through the bushes to find some dry firewood at the bottom. If it hadn't been for everyone's help, I don't know that it would have taken until the year of the monkey to find all the firewood. Snow gradually covered the tent, compressing the space for everyone smaller and smaller. 5 people huddled together in front of the tent door, gathered around a small fire, and cooked 2 buckets of instant noodles with the few remaining bottles of mineral water. Then you passed the bites to each other, eating the few hot foods. Following the firelight swaying in the snow at the camp, Sakakibara Suzu smiled and squeezed towards Sakakibara Raku. After such a miserable life, Aling, can you still laugh? What's the point? At least we have instant noodles to eat, it's good. Sister Chan is optimistic. Have you ever thought about what we would do if the snow doesn't stop for a week? Sakakibara Suzu's eyes widened immediately. Then we can't drive out? There is no cell phone signal here. No, it won't. Tianhaijuli Yulai smiled bitterly. That's right. Sakakihara Suzu immediately felt that the temperature had suddenly become colder by more than 1 level. Then what should we do? We can die together. Tianhai's Higsyu's face was illuminated by the flickering firelight. This frightened Sakakihara Suzu. Yuki. How could you say such scary words? Tianhai Kaimingyu nodded, but it is a fact. Then there's really nothing we can do. No. Sakakibara added a small stick to the bonfire, sparks flying in the snowflakes. Maybe my mother and uncle will notice on the 3rd day that we haven't contacted them, and then send a search and rescue team. The 3rd day. But the food we brought is only enough for us to eat 2 meals. And the gas in our car can only drive 50 or 60 kilometers. In this wilderness, we don't know when can I go out. Tianhai's Higsu blinked, so we can be together forever. Sakakihara Suzu was so anxious that she grabbed Amami Nazuki's shoulders and shook her hard. Yuki, stop talking nonsense. Tianhai Kaimingyu reassured her, Sister Chan, don't think about these things, just take it one step at a time. Now save your energy and go to bed. Sister Kyo is quite considerate. Tianhaijuli Yulai forced a smile and said, after all, there is no good solution at the moment, right? About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 512. Elder Brother. Elder Brother. Brother. What are you doing? You're not sleeping yet. Brother, do you feel very cold? Sakakihara was quiet for a while, and then replied. Currently, all the clothes and blankets that can be used to cover the body have been covered. But it's still cold. Look, Chi-Chi, Li Yulai and Ji Shui are all asleep. Why don't you squeeze more into Chi-Chi's arms? Tianhai Kaimingyu, I'm cold too. You didn't sleep in July. Can't sleep. Where's Li Yulai? Nor. Yuki. Did not sleep. Okay, everyone is not asleep emotionally. The wind and snow were blowing outside the tent, and the remaining warmth inside the blanket was slowly being eroded by the pervasive cold air. To be honest, Sakakibara Raku also felt cold. The temperature in the early morning in this deep mountain is probably several degrees lower than in the city. With the darkness above her head, Suzu Sakakihara shrank her head into the quilt. You're not really going to freeze to death here tonight. Tianhai Kaimingyu's voice on the side remained calm and calm, it's very possible. Sakakihara Suzu turned to look at her, Sister Kyo, aren't you afraid? I can only say that it's not bad to die together. Don't say such scary things, okay? July Tianhaijuli Yulai deliberately prolonged his voice. Tian Haikimingyu closed her eyes and pulled the blanket more towards her face, covering her nose. I know, I know. Ailing is scared to begin with, so don't scare her on purpose. Why don't you tell her something happy? Have no idea. What about telling a joke? I can't tell. Brother, do you want one? Why did it suddenly involve me? I only have cold jokes. It's so cold, so don't talk about it. Sakaki Harasuzu was very depressed. No one seemed to take the current situation seriously. This is in the mountains of Hokkaido at several degrees below zero. Sakaki Harasuzu, who was very frightened, turned to the side and reached out to push the girl's shoulder. What are Yuki thinking? Yuki, Yuki. Amami Nazuki opened her eyes blankly and stared above her head. She didn't react until Suzu Sakakibara called her 3 times in a row. What are you thinking about? I was wondering if it would be better if we all died together in a coffin. Ah. Sakaki Harasuzu couldn't hold herself any longer and stood up suddenly. The other 4 people in the bed all looked at her at the same time. I cannot make it. Aling, what are you going to do? It's cold. I'm going out to make a fire. Tian Haikimingyu half closed her eyes and said, there is a cold wind outside the tent, so it is better to lie under the quilt. Sakakibara was speechless. Stupid girl. Tian Haijuli Yulai also said quickly, yes, Ling, it's not as warm as here outside. How about you come between me and Kyo, and the 2 of us can hold you? No. I want to go out and light a fire. Sakakibara advised, Azu, it's so cold outside and the snow is probably dozens of centimeters thick. It's better to stay in the tent. Tianhai's Higsu also persuaded, at least everyone can die together. Sakaki Hararaku, I don't want to die together. My life hasn't started yet, and I'm not even an adult yet. I want to die. And I won't die until I'm 100 years old. Sister Chan will live to be 100 years old. Why can't I? I'm super healthy. If not, I just have to go out and make a fire. As she spoke, Sakaki Harasuzu put on the cotton padded jacket covering the blanket. After a while, I took the lighter and walked out of the tent. Brother, why don't you go out and persuade me? I'm cold. Why don't you go in July? I'm cold too. Sister, go. Perhaps Ling will come back after she feels colder outside. Sakakibara reached out to fumble for the phone beside the pillow, turned on the screen, and checked the time with the remaining power. The time was 3:01 in the morning. Still no signal. The weather list also showed the temperature predicted by the morning weather forecast for tonight. Sakakibara squinted and clicked on it. It was -11 degrees below zero. Staying outside for a long time can really freeze someone to death. Sakaki Hararaku is also desperate for the current situation. According to the amount of snowfall tonight, the road up the mountain and the road down the mountain will definitely be blocked by snow. In addition, there are basically no rations for these people. Let alone waiting for rescue, these people will starve to death here. Unless a few snowshoe hares suddenly pop out tomorrow morning, and they are all smashed to death on the tree stump near the tent. I remembered. What? The male protagonist in Love Letter died in the mountains of Hokkaido. It was also snowy. He accidentally stepped off the cliff while following the expedition team. Tian Haijuli Yulai, don't say scary things in Kyo. It's a fact. People get lost in the mountains of Hokkaido every year. Maybe this year we should be on the list. These words sounded really terrifying at this time, and several people could be said to be completely in despair. The national highway was blocked by snow, and we made many twists and turns to reach this mountain in the wilderness, and it happened to be that a heavy snowstorm closed the mountain. If it weren't for the temporary good place to set up camp, Sakakibara believed that several people would have been buried in the snow by now. Are you afraid of July? What are you afraid of? We're afraid we won't be able to get out tomorrow and we won't have food. Not afraid. Why? I probably think that if everyone can die together, there will be nothing to worry about or commemorate. No regrets. It's a pity that the good times will come to an end in a few days. Li Yulai seems to have the same idea. Why haven't Sister Chan come back yet? And I didn't see any fire at the entrance of the tent. Sakakibara propped up his body and looked outside the tent that was pulled up. Hearing the howling wind and snow outside, he subconsciously felt something was wrong. I'll go out and take a look. Lejun, clothes? Good. After dressing neatly and getting up, Raku Sakakibara quickly went to the door of the tent and unzipped the tent. The cold air outside suddenly hit his face, and the wind and snow hit his face coldly at the same time, making him subconsciously half close his eyes. Aling. Sakakibara stepped out of the tent and saw only darkness in the forest. Looking sideways, I saw that the snow accumulated at the entrance of the tent was more than half a meter high, and the entire hexagonal tent seemed to be embedded dozens of centimeters into the ground. Sakakibara looked at the fire that was lit more than an hour ago and it had long been buried in the thick snow. But where did Aling go? Sakakibara began to look around. Aling. 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 Ah, so you are here. Sakakibara walked around to the back of the tent, and then saw Sakakihara Suzu trying to make a fire with a lighter under a tree not far away. Sakakibara walked over and stood behind her for a while. She tried very hard with the lighter in her hand, but there was no tinder, let alone a fire. In this weather, the lighter had to be extinguished as soon as it was lit. You won't be able to fight if you do this. After trying it for a while, Sakakihara Suzu seemed to give up and sighed. Isn't it cold when you stay outside? Sakakihara came to her side, curled up his hands, and squatted in the same place as her. It's cold even if you stay inside. Sakakibara thought she was frightened by everyone's words. Everyone said they were going to die. I was just joking. Don't worry about that. We can go out tomorrow. As we said in July, such heavy snow will not last long. You want to lie to me again? I heard it outside. It's snowing so much tonight that I won't be able to walk out tomorrow. Afraid. What else? Sakakihara Suzu continued to try to light a fire. Give me the lighter. What? Help you light the fire. Sakakibara Raku had no good way to comfort his sister at the moment. Seeing that she insisted on making a fire, he went back to the tent and brought over an extra portion of dry firewood that he had prepared for the night. Hold the lighter with one hand and use toilet paper and some dry pine leaves as tinder. After the fire started to smoke, Sakakihara picked up the tinder ball, touched it in the palm of his hand and blew it on fire. The flames and black smoke grew larger and larger. After Sakakibara was happy to see the fire completely coming out, he placed it on the ground that had been pushed aside in advance, then stacked some small branches on top, and finally placed some larger branches. Ailing, squat over there. Oh! In order to prevent the wind and snow from extinguishing the flames, both of them tried their best to block the cold night wind with their bodies. Under the control of Sakakihara Raku, a bonfire with warm colors quickly appeared. Sakakihara Suzu stretched out her hand, spitting white mist from her mouth, and her face in the darkness was immediately illuminated by the firelight. Brother is awesome. It should be said, Ailing, that you have forgotten everything that happened before. What did I forget? Didn't we often go to the mountains behind our hometown to play when we were kids? Raku Sakakihara also stretched out his hand towards the bonfire. I built you a secret base made of banana leaves and branches. Did you forget that? Ailing, didn't you always like to run there and play in the past? Especially on rainy days, you would like to hide there and watch the rain when you had nothing to do. Sometimes you would even pull me over and ask me to help you light a fire. If there were freshly caught fish in the fake house, if you want me to roast the fish for you, you should always ask me to bake it for you. That's when you ask me to teach you how to make a fire. Sakakihara Suzu rotated her palms on the flames. Brother, you forgot everything when you were a child, why didn't you forget just these? Sakakihara Raku also stared at the bonfire with dancing flames. I am a girl control, how could I forget these things? Ha! Brother, you finally admitted it. Didn't I admit it long ago? Humph, I told you before, but you still don't want to admit it. That was in front of outsiders, how could I have the nerve to say that? Probably because he said something that Aling liked to hear. Her mood improved a lot, but it couldn't be said to be very good. The temperature of the campfire can only drive away some of the cold. What if we really die here? Don't worry, your brother will die first before you die. You say silly things every day. Tell me. Are you trying to comfort me on purpose? Otherwise, why come here to comfort me? I saw you were scared, that's all. Elder brother. Well, I'm here, I'm here. Are you cold? Cold. Then how about you come closer to me? Okay. Snow continues to fall. In a daze, the bonfire became much smaller due to lack of firewood supply. Probably because the heat and light faded, Sakakihara Suzu became nervous. I suddenly need to pee. Sakakihara Raku was stunned for a moment, and then with the faint light of the fire, he saw the blush on Suzu's face in the darkness. Go ahead. I am afraid. Weren't you quite bold in haunted houses before? That's because Sister Liulai and Yuki are around. You are the only one here now. This kind of thing is quite embarrassing. After all, Aling is already so old. How about settling it here? No, if there's a fire here, at least go to the woods on the edge. You can go there by yourself. No, I'm afraid. What if a wolf suddenly appears? Where did the wolf come from in Japan? Polar bear. Polar bears only live in the Arctic Ocean and zoos. Raku Sakakibara guessed that Suzu was so scared that she couldn't keep her head awake tonight, but there are still brown bears. Yes, there are brown bears. Sakakihara Suzu looked over with her soft purple eyes. You don't expect your brother to beat a brown bear, do you? Helpless, Sakakihara could only take her to the forest nearby. Wait until she finds a good position, then turn her back and wait. There was no light in the mountains in the early morning, and the cold wind kept whistling in the valley, making it pitch black. This environment is indeed quite depressing, and Sakakibara Raku can only hope that Suzu will end it soon and conveniently. Brother, you won't run away suddenly, right? I'm really scared. Who has the spare time to joke around at this time? Okay, hurry up, I'll wait for you. After waiting for 2 minutes, nothing happened. What? You don't want to pee? No. Then hurry up. Aling. Sakakihara Suzu's voice in the darkness was full of nervousness. No. Scared. Then why don't you get up and it won't be inconvenient? Brother, come closer. What? Sakakibara thought that Suzu was too scared to stay alone in such a dark place in the woods without any moonlight, so he walked over to accompany her. Seeing her squatting in front of her, Sakakihara turned his body consciously. Hand. What do you want my hands for? Holding. Still holding my hand. Yeah, I'm afraid. Okay. Sakakibara handed his hand to her, and it was quickly held. Aling holds on tightly. Sakakibara could feel that she was really scared. Don't allow random thoughts. Who has the time? You should do it quickly. Aling was completely silent. Not yet. Brother. What? If it's convenient, please hurry up. It's very cold outside, and I don't want you to catch a cold. Brother. I told you to hurry up dash. Brother, look over there, look over there. What? Sakakihara turned his head and shined the flashlight in the direction Suzu said. It was still pitch black and he couldn't see anything. What are you shouting, Aling? What's over there, a brown bear? Is it still haunted? It's not a brown bear, Sakakihara. Suzu was obviously excited. Brother, look carefully. Look carefully. At his sister's request, Sakakihara narrowed his eyes this time, and while shining the flashlight, he carefully observed what kind of things were between the pine trees in the distance. Brother. Haven't you seen it clearly? No, don't worry. Not a bird, not a rabbit, not a brown bear. In the sky full of snowflakes, a cloud of white mist floated in the forest, slowly rising upwards. Sakakibara was puzzled. In this winter, with heavy wind and snow, how could there still be white mist floating in the mountains and forests at night? Are you afraid it's not really haunted? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 513. Brother. It's a hot spring. Hot spring. Wait for the hot spring? After being reminded by Sakakibara Suzu, Sakakihara Raku suddenly realized. No wonder when he shined the flashlight, he felt that the white mist was rising so quickly. Originally, he thought that the mist looked like hot water, and that feelings might really be hot water. But where do these natural hot springs come from in the wilderness? Sakakihara looked up at the top of the forest, feeling doubtful. If it's not a hot spring, how can it be a ghost? You girl, weren't you scared to death just now? Are you excited now? That was just now. It's different now. It's completely different. No, no. I can't wait. I want to go over and have a look. Don't worry. You'll die of cold sooner or later if you stay here. Sakakihara Suzu seemed to see hope, and the fear of having to hold her hand just now to pee disappeared in her body in an instant. This made Sakakibara Raku wonder whether the girl in front of him and the girl who weakly called brother just now were the same person. Let's go, let's go. Brother, let's go there quickly, let's go there quickly. Don't be so anxious. Let's inform Li Yulai and the others first. Oh. No. They haven't gotten up yet, and the fog is up there. Brother, aren't you curious? Quite curious. It's not certain whether it's a hot spring or not. Besides, the fog is on the mountain, so the distance is quite large. Brother Mist, how do you explain it? It might be a hot spring, but it might be the size of a wash basin. That's not bad, you can drink hot water. Some hot spring water is drinkable and some is not. Generally not, there is sulfur in it. But what should we do if we really want to have a hot spring? In our current situation, we shouldn't go there? Brother, don't you want to know? This point cannot be refuted. Sakakihara Raku also wanted to know. You have to know that several people can still feel cold even if they stay together in a tent. It is really not a problem if it continues for such a long time at night. Everyone will catch a cold sooner or later. In addition, if there are too many snowflakes accumulated, it is very likely to collapse the tent, making it extremely dangerous to fall asleep in the tent. In this extremely cold situation, what if a hot spring suddenly appeared on this snowy day? It's time to go and take a look. Yeah, right. So we have to go there and take a look. Let's go now, it's up there anyway. Braving the wind and snow, Aling was almost forcibly dragged up the hillside. Even though most of the snowflakes were blocked by the pine trees overhead, the layer of snow in the forest was at least 10 centimeters thick. In addition, this is no man's land, overgrown with weeds and bushes, and it is normal for the cold rocks to be covered with moss. If you are not careful, you will slip and fall into the snow where branches and rocks coexist. There are still some dangers on the way up. But he couldn't resist Sakakihara Suzu's excitement. Sakakihara himself also wanted to go up and see what the white mist was all about, so he found a random stick in the pine forest, poked it, and climbed up the mountain. Some of the rocks on the road were frighteningly cold, but I had to use these things as support to climb. Occasionally, when he encounters some slightly dangerous places, Sakakibara Raku will let Sakakibara Suzu stay where he is, and then ask her to use the flashlight for him, and then he gropes forward. As the two of them walked onto a gently sloping gravel field, the white mist floating in the sky in front of them became increasingly clear under the illumination of the flashlight. The pine trees here began to decrease and were replaced by some huge and jagged rocks. Before they were completely close, Sakakibara was sure that there was definitely a large area of hot water ahead. I just said there would be hot springs. Sakakihara Suzu became more and more excited and her steps became faster and faster. She was scrambling to climb up a boulder and move forward first. "Slow down, girl." Sakakihara Raku saw his sister holding a flashlight from behind, and soon disappeared behind a boulder filled with white mist. After 2 or 3 seconds, the light reflected from the flashlight on the surrounding pine trees stopped shaking, as if it had been suddenly stopped. Sakakibara quickened his hands and feet and climbed onto the strange rock that his sister had just stepped on. He raised his head, and with the still light of the flashlight in front of him, he saw the wind and snow that continued to dance above the rugged boulder, and he also saw the huge air mass caught in the wind and snow that kept rising into the sky. The surroundings seemed to be a lot warmer, and the huge air mass in front of him made Sakakibara subconsciously open his mouth and exhale when he raised his head. "Brother." Sakakihara Suzu suddenly stepped back on the spot and stepped back. She turned her head stiffly, looked back at Sakakihara Raku who was looking to one side, and shouted blankly. "What? It's not a hot spring." Sakakihara felt something was not good. No, Sakakihara Suzu seemed to be frightened. "Are there polar bears?" "It's not a polar bear. Come and take a look." Unable to resist her urging or his own curiosity, Sakakibara stepped forward quickly and came to the same position as her. Then he looked in the direction her flashlight was pointing. The unparalleled shock is like climbing to the top of the mountain after going through countless hardships. The clouds and mist are rolling at the foot of the mountain, and all the mountains and rivers are in view. No, maybe I feel even more relaxed and happy now than then. In front of you is a semi-open cave, and in front of the cave is a huge fluorescent hot spring that looks like a magical lake in a fairyland. The hot spring water has a slight green and blue brilliance, and there is a steady stream of heat and snow floating in the sky above the hot spring. The gorgeous algae floating at the bottom of the hot spring are wandering around, emitting a soft and beautiful light green light. The edge of the hot spring is covered with strange hot spring stones. When illuminated by the bright light of the hot spring, they are as beautiful and coquettish as gems at night. This scene, this incredible scene, made Raku Sakakihara wonder if he had picked up the wrong script. The place where he was reincarnated more than 10 years ago was not the Earth at all, but a parallel world with magical power. This cave, this warm hot spring, this dreamy scene. It's incredible. Snowflakes were still falling in large tracts above our heads, and every snowflake that fell into the fluorescent hot spring disappeared in an instant. The surrounding heat was rising, and there was a unique, faint smell of rotten eggs floating everywhere. Sakakihara Raku knew that this was the smell of sulfur. Sakakihara Suzu was so shocked that she couldn't close her jaw. "Is this a hot spring?" "It looks like it is. The smell of sulfur can't be faked. Why is it still glowing here?" Sakakibara thought for a moment and had no idea. "I don't know, but looking at the green hot spring water, Maybe a nuclear power plant was built here. Brother, don't be kidding me. Who would build something like that in such a remote place with no water? Haha. It is indeed a joke. Nuclear power plants need to be built in places with a lot of water resources. There is not even a river here, and it is on a mountain. The color cannot be caused by radiation leakage. Well, that's true, but Aling, have you ever seen a glowing hot spring? Sakakihara Suzu hesitated for 2 seconds, looked at her blankly and replied, I saw it in my dream. This hot spring doesn't look very dangerous. Neither of them could suppress their excitement. After spending a miserable night in the icy and snowy wilderness, it was so cold that I faced despair, but now I saw a hot spring that should not have appeared at this time. There is no doubt that this is the most beautiful gift given by nature after experiencing extremely dangerous conditions. Elder brother. What? This place is so beautiful. I really want to go to the hot springs. Have you brought any clothes? Besides, this hot spring water can also glow, so who knows what it is. I heard in July that there is a kind of hot spring called radioactive hot spring. Well, brother, don't you want to go down and take a hot bath now? Who wouldn't want to? It's so cold that I can hardly feel my hands and feet. The fluorescent hot springs are indeed beautiful and extremely exciting. But the two of them were unsure of the situation, so they immediately turned back the same way. The two hurriedly went down the mountain. Suzu Sakakihara came to the camp with great excitement. She ran all the way and quickly opened the zipper of the tent, wanting to announce the news to the 3 people who were still chatting in the tent. I. Inside the tent, Amamai Kaiminyu pulled the quilt, looked at Sakakibara Suzu at the door with half-closed eyes, and said dissatisfiedly, I suggest you, Sister Chan, take a breath before speaking, and zip up the tent quickly. I don't know that it's -10 degrees outside now. Suzu Sakakibara was wearing a heavy cycling suit, breathing heavily, and white mist kept spitting out violently with her breathing. Something happened to Lejun. Tianhai Julie Yulai became confused and worried. When Julie Yulai asked, Tianhai's Higsu also looked over with great concern. That's not the case. My brother, he is fine. Tianhai Kaimingyu was even more speechless. Then Sister Chan, why are you in such a hurry? And quickly pull up the chain, otherwise the 3 people here will freeze to death tonight. Warm hot spring. Hot spring? Sister Chan, are you hallucinating in your head? We haven't reached Lake Kusharo yet, and there is no hot spring hotel here. No, it's not. It's true. There is really a hot spring. Hurry. Put on your clothes and come out. Hurry over. Seeing Sakakibara Suzu so overjoyed, the 2 sisters Julie Yulai and Chi Minjio looked at each other, realized something was wrong, and quickly got dressed. Yuki is getting up soon. By the way, I also woke up Tianhai's Higsu. Several people spent a few minutes putting on their thickest motorcycle riding clothes and quickly walked out of the tent. It was still dark in the early morning, and the visibility was extremely low, but Nanamai could see Raku Sakakibara standing in the woods on the right, holding a flashlight and shining his light on the people on this side of the tent. Sister Chan, it's best to tell the truth. What did I lie to you for? This place doesn't look like a place with hot springs at all. First of all, we still have nearly 200 kilometers to go. Secondly, we haven't reached Lake Kusharo yet. This area is not on the volcanic belt. Oh. It's true. It also glows. Glowing. Did you hit a radioactive hot spring? Is there really such a hot spring? Yes, why not? It is generally considered to be a very healthy hot spring. Tianhai Kaimingyu pinched her chin, and after thinking about it carefully, she felt something was wrong, but the elements that generally contribute to the formation of radioactive hot springs are radon and thorium. This element does not emit visible light. Several people were talking while walking towards Sakakihara Raku's position. Sister Chan, tell me what color you met. Light green, bright, and shiny, very beautiful. Yinglu. There are some other radioactive elements that will glow, but there are no natural hot springs with special ores nearby. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be such high radioactive elements. Julie and Yuki had already rushed to Sakakibara Raku. Sakakibara Suzu hurriedly dragged Amamai Kaiminyu forward. Oh, oh, oh. Sister Kyo, don't think so much, go over and take a look first, and then talk about it. It can only be like this. The 5 people followed the route they had just explored and braved the cold wind and snow to climb up the mountain again. This distance is not close, and the previous July's physical fitness would definitely not be good. Sakakihara Raku was a little lucky that she had gone running and played basketball for some exercise before. Once again we came to this small flat land of gravel with rugged boulders. When the 3 of them came behind the boulder and saw the hot spring for the first time, they were as shocked as Raku and Suzu were when they saw it. Who wouldn't love such a dreamlike scene like caves, luminous natural hot springs, and huge amounts of hot air rising up in the cold and snowy weather? There are still doubts about the hot springs emitting green light. How about July? Raku Sakakibara came to the squatting side of Nanamai, who was carefully examining the composition of this natural hot spring. It smells of sulfur. Should it be a sulfur hot spring or a hydrogen sulfide hot spring? Yes, Tianhai Kaimingyu nodded. Then why is it glowing green? It can't really be a radioactive hot spring. General radioactive hot springs are not harmful. Moreover, radon is colorless, tasteless, and odorless. The smell of this hot spring is not strong, which means that the hot springs that make up this hot spring can only be hydrogen sulfide hot springs with mostly hydrogen sulfide. Tianhai Kaimingyu raised her head and looked at the translucent hot spring water in front of her. At the same time, she noticed that this hot spring was not only green, but also yellow, orange, and other colors. Tianhai Kaimingyu stood up. July. I see. What did Sister Chiu think of? The stuff that makes up this color. Tianhai Kaimingyu recalled seriously, the substance that causes this hot spring to shine is probably a thing called oxalic acid bacteria. This kind of thing in hot springs usually emits orange, yellow, green, or some other, mixed colors. And will fluoresce at night and in low-light environments under certain specific conditions. Is it harmful? Although oxalic acid itself is toxic to the human body, the dose must be diluted in such a large hot spring. In Hokkaido, many hotels use fluorescent hot springs as a publicity stunt. This is normal. Tianhai Julie approached, that is to say. Tianhai Kaimingyu gave a direct answer, it can be soaked. Great. As soon as Sakakihara Suzu heard the news, she immediately jumped up with excitement and wanted to take off all her clothes immediately. Yuki. Did you hear that, Yuki? You can take a bath in the hot spring. Yet Tianhai's Higsu was stunned by her shaking. Li Yulai was also very happy after hearing this. Then hurry up. Without further ado, let's take a bath in the hot spring together. About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Bulletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 514. To bump into a hot spring at this time is as incredible as a plate of braised pork suddenly falling from the sky when you are so hungry that you are chewing tree bark. The temperature around this hot spring is much higher than other places in the mountains, and there is open space around it, so I simply carry all my tents and luggage up, so that I can go to sleep directly after soaking in the hot spring. As for the motorcycle, it was temporarily parked beside the road below, and we would see if we could get out the next day. By the way, bro, we don't seem to have any yukata with us. So what if I didn't bring a yukata? Sakakibara put down the blanket bag in his hand and looked at the 4 girls standing in front of the hot spring. What do you think would happen if we didn't bring our yukata? It's not that great. Just go down and take a dip. Brother, you did it on purpose, right? Sakakihara laughed and said, just go down and take a dip. It's not like I haven't seen you all before. When Suzu Sakakihara heard this, she immediately felt something was wrong. She covered her chest with her hands and looked shocked. You peeked at me taking a shower at night. Sakakibara looked her up and down, waved his hand, and said, not taking it seriously, who is interested in your almost adult body that still has to wear a vest? You. Sakakihara Suzu saw that he really didn't care about his figure. He turned around and started setting up a tent next to the hot spring. Hey hey hey! Where is this? After all, I am now an idol with millions of fans. I am so unattractive in this regard. How can I ignore myself like this? Sister Chan, please be careful. Even if someone peeks at me and my sister more than a dozen times, he won't look at you again. Sensing that Amami Nanamajetsu was chuckling at the side, Sakakibara Suzu's face became angry. She pulled Amami Yuki in front of her and continued to question Sakakibara Raku, who was setting up the tent. What about Yuki? Yuki has a good figure, but you can't look at it either. Bar. Tianhai's Higsu slowly turned around and said, I've seen it now. When? Sakakihara Suzu was even more shocked. When we took a shower together before. Taking a bath? When did someone take a bath with you, Yuki? Tianhai Kaimingyu heard this and frowned. When we first arrived, Tianhai's Higsu's voice was soft. Hey! Yuki, don't talk nonsense. Sakakihara Suzu noticed the changes in Nanamayu and Juliuri. Her expression immediately became subtle, and she shouted with gloating, Brother, I didn't expect you to have such a secret. Sakakibara Raku can completely ignore Azu's thoughts, but Kyo and Ruri can't. Don't lie, Yuki remembered it wrong. Did I remember it wrong? Sakakibara explained patiently, when Yuki first came, she had no idea about ordinary outsiders. She would take off her clothes directly in front of me when taking a bath, and she would wash the bath herself. Then brother, why don't you read it? This is unclean. Forget it, everyone knew it before, but this time everyone doesn't know it. At best, this can only be regarded as an occasional embarrassment in a family. Just like the last time you bumped into me and Liulai with Yuki. Legend. Sakakihara Raku saw Amami Kuruuri blushing for a moment, and felt quite embarrassed. It can only be said to be a coincidence. And didn't you, this damn girl, bump into me before? Are you sorry? In the past, Sakakihara Suzu might have been quite embarrassed. But it has been so long ago, and now that she thinks about it, she feels that it was nothing at that time. Sakakibara Suzu put her hands behind her back, kicked her right foot, turned her head and whispered. Isn't it just a coincidence that I bumped into you and Sister Liulai in the living room? It's nothing. Isn't this what you call it? Last time Liulai locked herself in the room for almost 2 weeks. Oh, this is something everyone knows. Even if I meet Sister Kyo in the living room next time, I won't say anything more. We are all adults and we all understand. Who is an adult like a girl like you who doesn't even have full hair? Aling is shameless, and Sakakibara Raku still wants some shame. After all, falling in love is a very private matter. Aling, you must at least respect it. I respect you very much. You can do this next time I meet you. Sakakibara Suzu's right index finger gestured like a little person walking and crossed her chest. Just passing by, you can continue your business. Just treat me as me does not exist. Sakakibara imagined that scene. Aling had just come home from get off work. After entering the living room, she shouted I'm back to the two people who were in love in the living room, and then returned to her own room as if nothing was wrong. Halfway through, she might take another look and say, you guys are so energetic, and then go back to the room. No, This scene makes me have to cover my face just thinking about Sakakibara Raku. So shameless. What nonsense are you talking about? Sakakihara Suzu raised her face and said, that's how it is. Feeling that it was quite lonely to talk alone, Sakakihara Suzu pulled Amami Nazuki, who had been listening to the conversation, over and instilled this idea in her. Yuki said yes, next time we can just pretend we didn't see it. Does Ellie care about this? Can you not care about this? Amami's Higsu is a simple girl, but has a dark heart. Then if Ellie thinks we still care about this matter, Ling and I can still sit on the small sofa and watch TV at that time. When Sakakihara Suzu heard this, she almost burst out laughing. Brother, did you hear that? Yuki and I could still sit next to each other and watch TV at that time. We don't care at all, okay? We just get used to it. No, don't. Is this a question of whether you care or not? The most important question is whether the client and I care. We are the ones who are exposed. July, you say something. Say what? The one Aling mentioned just now. Tianhai Kaimingyu didn't know what happened at this time, and was very unconcerned. I don't care. None. Doesn't matter. How can this matter not matter? Sakakibara Raku was shocked, and Sakakibara Suzu almost laughed again. After I was bumped into by my aunt last time, I didn't say anything. I have my own family affairs and don't talk about it outside. Sakakihara Suzu smiled. Well, this matter is actually not as serious as you think, brother. Isn't this serious? What happened to this world? Is it them or you who is abnormal? That's right, just think about how you and Sister Liuli feed each other. That kind of thing is just an upgraded version of this kind of thing. Just get used to it. Get used to it. Liuli. Where's Liuli? Liuli, let's talk. Sakakibara kept looking back, and then he realized that Tianhaiju really had taken off his thick clothes at some point, and went to the hot spring with a blushing face. She probably remembered the embarrassing incident before and didn't want to get involved in this topic at all. Look, Yuki, and Sister Kyo all think there's nothing wrong with it, so I don't have to worry about it so much. It's something everyone knows anyway, don't be too surprised. Go. Go away, go away. When did this girl Aling become so thick-skinned? This can be made a joke. Same goes for Chi-Chi, who is still in the mood to play around with this girl Aling. Can this be said like this? As for what they said, Sakakihara Raku didn't even think about it. She was shameless and she wanted shame. He didn't want to continue talking about this topic, so he rushed them to the hot spring and set up his own tent before going down. Brother Yuki has gotten bigger recently, I've checked it out for you. Go, let's play. Asterisk. Steamy and dense. After finishing all the work in the middle of the night, I took off my clothes and took a bath in the natural hot spring pool. This feeling can be described in one word: refreshing. Sakakihara subconsciously opened his hands and placed them on the edge of the bath. He closed his eyes and looked up, catching the snowflakes falling from the sky with his face, feeling the pleasure and comfort that the hot springs brought to his whole body in the cold snow. When it came to dismantling and moving the tent, Raku Sakakihara naturally contributed the most. In addition, she didn't sleep much tonight, and her whole body was exhausted. At this time, Ruri was the best. After getting out of the hot spring, she not only massaged his back, but also personally delivered some cookies she brought to Sakakibara Raku's mouth. Inside, none of them had brought yukata or other clothes for hot spring bathing, and it was impossible for them to wet their underwear on their own initiative. Naturally, the current situation was very delicate. I won't talk about the two little girls Aling and Ji Shui. Kyo and Liuli have good figures that can be seen with the naked eye, with slender legs, rosy and shiny skin rich in collagen, straight noses and straight facial features, and plump and bright cherry-colored lips with beautiful shapes. At a glance, you can still see the translucent hot springs covering the fair skin under the collarbone. Sakakihara took a sneak peek below the collarbone. It seemed to be a lot bigger. Tianhaijuli Yulai, who had long beige hair tied around her head, reached out angrily to poke his cheek. Lejun, don't glance around. Luli, yours doesn't work either. No. Where's a sneak peek at July? No way. Does that mean I have to keep my eyes closed the whole time? This hot spring is large, but there are few places in the cave where cold wind does not blow. It is only the size of a small bath. It can be said that everyone is crowded on the edge of the inside of the cave. Although the hot spring water is not completely transparent, if you pay a little more attention, you can see things you shouldn't. On the other side, Suzu Sakakihara had already hugged her legs and buried her face halfway in the water. I must be having fun now. I told you I don't care about you. In this regard, Sakakihara Raku is still careful to avoid suspicion, not to mention that he will not pay attention to a Suzu. But after all, they are not far away from each other, and Isuzu is still shy. If she wasn't left alone outside the hot spring, it would be uncomfortable with the cold wind blowing on her head. Compared to Sakakihara Suzu, who covered her body the whole time, Yuki didn't care about it at all and just enjoyed the hot spring. As for July, she didn't even care. If she paid more attention to her for a second, she could see the light. So much so that Sakakibara was very doubtful whether what she just said didn't matter was true. Having said that, he was a man, and it was quite awkward for him to mix among them, even if they considered their relationship. Suddenly realizing this, Sakakihara began to pay attention to keeping an appropriate distance from them. He also closed his eyes and rested his mind to avoid something more embarrassing happening. After all, he is still a boy of this age. If he pays too much attention to Kia or Liulai, the situation will not be good. It was quiet for about 20 minutes. Even though everyone closed their eyes, it was already past 4:10, and they basically didn't sleep much. Everyone was very tired. What are you thinking about? July. Seeing the girl approaching him, Sakakihara lowered his voice so as not to disturb everyone who was resting in the hot spring. The hot spring water has a bright green light, and the heat continues to rise upwards. The sky blue eyes of Tianhai Kaimingyu look particularly beautiful at night. Why are you here? Why can't I come over? Compared to Sakakibara Raku's low voice, Amamai Nanamayu didn't seem to care that much. Her eyes first stared at Sakakibara's face, and then followed the heat to her neck, shoulders, and finally her chest. Do you keep exercising at night while traveling? He looks quite handsome. Sakakibara saw her approaching and hesitated for a second or two. Kyo, you praised me so much, but I felt flustered. Why are you panicking? Because it means you have some bad ideas. Tianhai Kaimingyu's face showed a not so obvious, but very beautiful smile. Am I usually so bad? I feel more panicked when you smile, but I feel more secure when you look cold. Tianhai Kaimingyu put away her smile, returned to her usual expressionless state, and her tone became calm. Is this so? That's right, Raku. Sakakihara relaxed. This is good. I remember someone liked to call me Little Devil a long time ago. He also said that side of me is cute. Tianhai Chimingyu's hand slid up his right arm. Sakakibara felt itchy and subconsciously felt that something was not good. Sometimes you are too cold, and it is quite cute to be naughty. I remember that you always liked to tease Liulai before. I also like to tease my sister now. The last slender fingers on the arms and shoulders slid to the chest. His slender fingers traced the skin of his chest, and an electric current surged through his spine. By the time Sakakibara Raku reacted, Nanamai had her hands on his chest, and her eyes were very close to each other. Tianhai Kaimingyu maintained her cold Sanwoo face. It's been 2 weeks. They were so familiar with each other that Sakakihara Raku could understand what she meant just by making eye contact. Raku Sakakihara walked around Kyo, who was holding her hands on her chest, and looked at Ruri, Suzu, and Zyuki, who were resting behind her petite shoulders with their eyes closed. They seemed to have fallen asleep. It's not appropriate. Aling and the others are right next to you. What's inappropriate? It's just a heart-to-heart talk. Now we're not allowed to communicate properly when there are people around us. Sakakibara is hard to comment on. I think it's pretty good. It's more than 10 degrees below zero outdoors, even if there's a hot spring bathing in it, it's still quite cold. Tianhai Kaimingyu suddenly closed her eyes, and after a brief pause, she kept a cold Sanwoo face and slowly opened her eyes. Do not you think so? Sakakihara Raku was still a little bit regretful, but Chi-Chi's expression, coupled with this action. At this point, it's really unjustifiable not to respond. Then let's speak in a lower voice. Random. About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Bulletin 11 Huan Tiu Lan. Chapter 515. Snap. The sound of a cell phone being slapped. Brother, still no signal. No, and my phone is almost out of battery. Upon hearing this, Sakakihara Suzu was immediately discouraged. She sat on the stones covered with straw mats and looked at the surrounding pine forest completely covered with snow in a depressed manner. Then what should I do? We will stay here for the rest of our lives and will not be able to get out. It snowed all night. Thanks to the natural hot springs encountered in the middle of the night, several people did not freeze to death at night. However, the heavy snow still closed the mountain. Not to mention cars, several people's motorcycles could not get out, so they could only stay in this place for now. Sakakihara Suzu looked up at the sky depressedly and stretched out her hand, as if to hold the sunlight shining down from the forest in her hand. Hokkaido, Hokkaido, why does it snow so much? Sister Chan wasn't very excited when she first came to Hokkaido and saw the snow. Now there is only despair. A few people are taking it one step at a time. She had finished eating the remaining dry food this morning, and Sakakihara Suzu was now worrying about what to eat for lunch and dinner today. Not even an hour after eating the dry food, she was already hungry. Looking away from the blue sky, Sakakihara Suzu was waiting and looked at the orange-red bonfire in front of her. Every time the sparks flew out of the bonfire, her eyes were blurred. Curry. Fried ice cream. Grilled fish and bird skewers. Fried chicken with cold pineapple. Sakura shrimp egg roll. Braised pork. Twice cooked pork. The recipes were recited and they even sang. Sister Chan, it's better to be quiet. Didn't you see that Yuki is drooling beside you? Have it? Sakakihara Suzu immediately looked at Amamai Yuki, who was sitting next to her. Yuki's mouth didn't drool. But with the look in her eyes, Sakakihara Suzu completely suspected that Yuki was so hungry that she wanted to eat herself. Very scary. Tianhai Yuli picked up a piece of firewood and threw it into the fire. Sparks suddenly flew everywhere. Didn't Lejun already go to the mountain to find food? Ling, please wait. Brother, when will you come back? Tianhai Yuli looked up at the snowy pine forest in the distance. I'm quite worried about Lejun. There's so much snow here, is it okay? Sakakihara Suzu put her hands on the stone behind her and said very nonchalantly, Brother, he is also worried about you, Sister Liuli. It is precisely because he is worried about Sister Liuli that he doesn't let Sister Liuli go to the mountains with him. Brother, what's wrong with Liuli? My sister's love makes me jealous. I know he is worried about me. But I think if I follow him, I can help him a little bit, right? It would be nice to have one more person to take care of him. My sister loves her brother so deeply. Aren't you worried in July? No worries at all. Why? Tianhai Yuli couldn't figure it out at all. Sakakihara Suzu knew much more than Kuruori at this point, so she waved her hands indifferently and said, "Sister Liuli, don't worry. I'm the best at finding food in the mountains and running around in the mountains. Sister Kyo can also testify to this." Testify in July, Tianhai Liuli turned his head in another direction. Tianhai Kaimingyu was closing her eyes to rest, and answered in a very soft voice, "Sister Chan refers to when we went to Shikoku Island when we were children." Tianhai Liuli thought about it, refers to the time when Kyo ran with Lejun when he was a child. "I remember that during that time, in Kyo, you ran to the mountains to play with Lihiling every day." Yes, Tianhai Kaimingyu nodded. "My brother is very good. He knows the mountains very well. He knows where there are fish, hares, and pheasants. Of course, he also knows how to catch these things." "Can Li outrun the pheasant?" Tianhai's Higsu asked. "Of course he can't run in the forest, but he can make traps. As soon as the pheasant enters, it will be covered. I don't know where he learned these weird skills. That Sister Chan was really happy when she was a child." What? Aren't you happy to have a brother who can do everything and can still protect you? It seems that I am really happy. This guy used to know a little bit about everything. If you encounter any trouble, just go to him. If you want something, if you want to go camping, if you want to play awesome house, you can go to him. It seems that his camping skills are also versatile." Sakakihara Suzu still remembers the time when her brother drilled wood to make fire and amazed her. Sort of. Sister Chan, this is my answer. Has Sister Chan ever praised your brother in a positive way? No. Sakakihara Suzu rarely praised him in front of him, but when chatting with her friends, she always talked about him. "My brother is as good as he is, whatever he can do," she used to say. But she stopped being like this after junior high school. "It seems that my sister Chan is also partly responsible for my brother's current personality." What does this mean? It's just that Sister Chan, you rarely express it, which causes someone to feel a lack of love in their heart. Now you can't do it anymore, you are not as arrogant as before. "You are the tsundere," Sakakibara Suzu retorted with a sullen face. "This is, my face has been exposed. He also knows what I think, so there is no need to keep pretending. Do you know? Well, I can see that my brother's shadow is everywhere in my sister Chan's life and thoughts." Sakakihara Suzu noticed something amiss. Sister Kyo suddenly spoke like this, isn't she thinking of driving me away in the future? "I won't do that, even if you take up a lot of time from me and him in the future, I won't do that." "Hey. What do you mean by your time with him? What? Do you want me to remind you, Sister Chan, that I am boyfriend and girlfriend now, and we will be engaged soon?" "You," Sakakihara Suzu gritted her teeth. "But I won't hate my sister Chan's approach. On the contrary, I will welcome her." It seems that Suzu Sakakihara only discussed her future relationships with several people with Raku Sakakibara. "I haven't really had any formal communication with my two sisters." Sakakihara Suzu remembered what Sakakihara Raku said to her a few nights ago, and her worries about the future. "Then let me say it first. Even if I am 30 years old, I will stick to my brother. You won't be disgusted?" Tianhai Kaimingyu's answer was straightforward, "No." Tianhai Liuli also tried to think about that situation. "I wouldn't care about anything. On the contrary, if I can see my sister being as stupid as ever when she is 30, I will feel happy." July Fox. To be honest, it's quite strange. Logically speaking, I should be the one closest to my brother, right? He is obviously his own brother. The dearest and dearest one. Now this relationship still needs their approval. Isn't it too strange? Sister Chan, don't think too much. Logically speaking, my sister and I are latecomers. We can only make suggestions for your future relationship, rather than make decisive choices. Sister Kyo is pretty good. After all, you call me sister, and of course, the same goes for Yuki. Sister Kyo, do you want to take care of your children by yourself? What, am I kiming? You opened her eyes and saw Sakakibara Suzu's playful smile. If Sister Kyo has to be busy with family affairs in the future, you and my brother's child will be left to me to take care of. I will make sure that he will love his mother to death. Instill in him the idea that your mother is a big-tailed fox every day. Forget it, I can teach my child myself. If I have to leave it to someone else, I will choose to let my sister do it. When Tianhaijuli Yulai heard this, he felt very strange. What about mine? Sister, you can take me with you. Anyway, the child can't tell us apart at first. Having said that, does this mean that everyone has made their future relationship explicit? This also means that everyone must focus on someone in the future and continue this family forever. Sakakihara Suzu doesn't have any objections to this. She is very satisfied if she can maintain the status quo. Sakakihara Raku was still hunting in the mountains, and the others had nothing to do, so they could only chat like this. Most of the following topics revolved around Sakakihara Raku. The two Amami sisters seemed to be very curious about what happened to Sakakibara Raku when he was a child. Sakakibara Suzuya was happy to talk about these things, so she told the three of them all the embarrassing things that happened to their elder brother when he was a child. A few people's conversations are always inseparable from Sakakihara Raku. As they chatted, Sakakihara Suzu realized in a daze that everyone here was emotionally inseparable from someone, right? Even if he is not here and everyone is still chatting, they will still come back to him. Soon after, Raku Sakakihara returned from the jungle. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, he came to the front of the crowd carrying a wild deer that had been tagged to death. Brother, is this? As you can see, wild deer. Not only Sakakihara Suzu, everyone was curious about how he did it. Sakakihara Raku just said that he randomly whittled a wooden gun. I originally wanted to look for fish in the stream, but unexpectedly I bumped into a wild deer halfway up the mountain. Throw a javelin and it will look like this. Brother, you are bluffing. I would rather believe that this deer hit a tree and died. Look at the wound yourself, believe it or not. It looked like he was indeed stabbed to death with a wooden javelin. This means that everyone's food has been available these days. Don't worry about going hungry at all. Sakakibara Suzu suddenly looked at Sakakibara Raku with a hint of admiration. If he was trapped in this mountain alone, he would definitely not be able to survive. There was no food, no one to talk to, and I had to be scared every night in the dark mountains. Brother, he is really awesome. I don't know what Sister Kyo, Sister Liulai, and Yuki think. But Sakakibara Suzu confirmed her inner thoughts after eating the venison, which was handled, grilled, and sprinkled with a little salt, all by Sakakihara Raku. Can't live without him anymore. If he disappears suddenly, it will be like the world has collapsed, the fish has lost its water, and everything is meaningless. I am afraid that I have been inadvertently raised by someone to become a useless person, right? Love, life. Actually, no matter where you are, you have to rely on someone. Sakakihara Suzu pouted as she thought about it. And why is this venison so delicious? Asterisk. Probably because I don't have to worry about food for the next few days. The atmosphere among the few people also changed. From the melancholy of being trapped in the mountains and forests at the beginning, it turned into a pure joy of vacationing in the mountains. During the past 2 days, the sun was shining brightly during the day and the weather was good. Sakakihara took the 4 girls to wander and run around in the mountains. Try everything from picking mushrooms to digging wild vegetables to hunting snowshoe rabbits. After hitting a small river whose surface was frozen, Sakakihara used a wooden gun to poke holes in the ice and taught everyone how to use the most primitive method of ice fishing. After having some free time, we made ice bricks together and tried to build an igloo in the pine forest. In the silence of falling snowflakes, the earth was covered with a thick layer of pure white snow, as if it were silvery white powder sprinkled by angels. The branches and treetops of the trees are covered with fluffy snowflakes, and the sun shines on the snow, sparkling and shining. General done. The igloo was completed quickly. Although it looked unstable, it was still visible and enough for 5 people to enter. After the work was completed, Suzu Sakakibara, who was wearing a thick scarf, was the first to raise her head with a smile and said, Me. I want to be the first to go in. I also want to name it. Let's call it Ling's Igloo. Hey, this igloo clearly has Liuli doing the most work. Then I'll exchange the delicious dried venison with Sister Liuli. That's the wild deer I caught, okay. A simple igloo is still a bit monotonous, and Tianhai's Higsu built a snowman next to the igloo. The snowman had no decorations, so he just picked up a few rocks and put them on top. He used his nose to dig up wild cabbage heads over the past few days. Finally, he put a red scarf around it, and he was really done. If it weren't for the fact that his mobile phone and other electronic devices were out of battery, Sakakibara would have had to leave a photo for a few people in front of the igloo. As for what to eat, make it in different ways, such as venison mushroom soup, whitefish and wild vegetable soup, barbecue trout, and cold wild vegetable salad. Hey! Even with the big bellies of Ling and Yuki, they can still be full. My brother is so awesome. He can cook so many dishes. You know me now? Fortunately, I brought a pack of salt for the barbecue when I came here, otherwise it wouldn't be so delicious. Of course, brother, I have farsightedness. If it weren't for you, brother, I would probably die of cold in the snow. I would starve to death if I didn't die of cold. Pay attention to your image, you are an idol after all. Anyway, no one saw it, okay. If you are tired from running in the mountains and feel cold at night, then go directly to the natural hot spring next to the tent to take a bath. Such a life. Ah. Just 2 words, comfortable. Sakakihara Suzu felt that this was not a disaster in the mountains. It was clearly a leisurely vacation to watch the snow scenery. It's an experience that money can't buy. There is just one place where I am very dissatisfied. Brother. What are you doing again? I won't take a nap while soaking in the hot springs at night. Sakakihara felt uncomfortable, so what? Sakakihara Suzu smiled faintly. As for me, I always hear some very strange and weird noises near the hot springs. Brother, do you have any clue? Sakakibara immediately looked away from the other side of the bonfire. I don't know what you are talking about. Brother. Okay. If you keep talking, I won't allow you to drink fish soup. What? It's not like I did anything wrong, I just heard. Sakakibara decisively took away the food in front of her. Ah. No. Yuki. Save our fish soup. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. About the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 516. Sakakibara killed enough wild deer to feed several people until the 4th day. But in fact, in the early morning of the penultimate day of the new year, that is, the early morning of the 3rd day of the disaster, the helicopter sent by the Tianhai family followed the smoke of the bonfire and found several people. As for why the Tianhai family came so quickly, it also benefited from Tianhai Median's foresight. The uncle knew the time when several people arrived at the Kusharo Lake scenic area. When several people had not arrived after a day and at the same time they could not be contacted, he notified the Tianhai family and asked them to wait until the wind and snow had obviously weakened. Later, helicopters were sent to search the mountainous areas around Asahikawa City. After getting on the plane, Sakaki Hararaku realized why there was a hot spring where the few people were staying. It turns out that the location of these people is only 30 kilometers away from Lake Kushiro in a straight line, just around the volcano. When Sakakibara saw his uncle in the helicopter, he felt that he was too embarrassed to see him. Facing his uncle's serious face, he could only try to say good morning, uncle, as usual. The noise from the helicopter was very loud, but luckily I could still hear each other's conversations clearly. Good morning. You're such a brat, you're really annoying. Uncle, it happened so suddenly that I didn't expect the snow to be so heavy. Several main roads were blocked. I can't find any way to go back the way I came. Tianhaimadayan just stared at him silently and said nothing. His uncle is currently both his stepfather and his father-in-law. When faced with the pressure he put on him, Sakakihara was quite frightened. Amamai maid Nori turned his head and looked at another helicopter in the sky from the helicopter's cabin. Below, Kioliuli and the others were gradually ascending along the ladder lowered by the helicopter. Uncle, don't worry, they are not injured. Yeah, he looks pretty good. Thanks to the complete camping equipment I brought, Sakakibara said with a smile. What did you eat in the mountains these 2 days? The food you brought there in advance. Hair grilled fish or something, because we had already prepared a camping barbecue, so we brought a lot of seasonings. We also hit a hot spring on the way, so we don't have to worry about keeping warm at night. It sounds like this brat is living quite happily in the mountains with the rest of them. Amamai maid Nori didn't want to say more about this brat. Originally, she wanted to blame him for bringing several girls to such a dangerous place. But it seems that he is doing well as always in taking care of people. The heavy snow closed the mountain and turned it into mountain camping for him. He had been anxious for most of the day, but it was all in vain. This brat was more comfortable taking a few people with him than just the two of them on vacation. I don't know whether to praise him or scold him. Please pay attention to the weather next time you go out. Of course, I will definitely pay attention next time I go out. Asterisk. It's better to be in a crowded place. At the end of the year, the B/U0026BS in scenic spots are still crowded with people. I wonder if it is the annual holiday, so most people have time to run out. Next to the wooden B/U0026BS unique to the countryside, there are countless tents pitched in the snow. Between these tents, there are bonfires and camping barbecue grills that have just been set up. The landscape of Hokkaido is as flat, empty, and white as ever. Suddenly flying out of the mountains and seeing this refreshing snowy scenery, Sakaki Hararaku didn't know what other people were thinking. But he felt particularly at home. By the way, brother. We left by helicopter, but what about our motorcycles in the mountains? Why didn't you think of asking about this until now? Sakakibara Suzu smiled silly, her purple eyes narrowed. I was so excited when I got on the helicopter that I didn't expect this. Could it be that I have to wait for the snow to melt before driving back? How is that possible? Raku Sakakibara explained. According to what my uncle said, Yakubo hired a helicopter anyway, and the motorcycle was lifted out of the mountainous area by helicopter. What's wrong? How much does this cost? This is the Tianhai family's helicopter. Impossible. Aren't Tianhai's family in Tokyo? Hearing this, Sakakihara pointed to his feet expressionlessly. Why do you think the helicopter can leave so quickly? The search and rescue team from Hokkaido that my uncle spent a lot of money to hire. Wrong. It's because the Tianhai family is responsible for the development of this scenic spot. The equipment in the surrounding scenic spots, such as airplanes, large hotels, etc., all belong to the Tianhai family. Sakakihara Raku stretched out his hand as he spoke. Suzu Sakakihara looked in the direction of his finger and happened to see the logo of a subsidiary of Tianhai Group on the helicopter. Those who brought everyone back emotionally are all the assets of the Tianhai family. If I travel such a long distance for half a day, the place I travel to is also my own land. Sakakihara Suzu knew this. Sakakihara Suzu is used to this kind of thing. But she didn't expect that Tianhai family would actually be involved in a place as quiet as Hokkaido. It's not that the Tenkai family is interested in this place alone, but that the entire tourism development in Hokkaido is undertaken or participated by the Tenkai Group, and Asahikawa City, the second largest city in Hokkaido, is naturally included. Sakakibara Suzu raised her face. Isn't Tianhai Group a pharmaceutical group? Why did it suddenly start real estate development again? Sakakihara smiled and put his hand on her head. I thought the same way you did at first, Suzu. At this time, Tianhai Julie Yuli came over and told the two of them to continue setting off. This is at the foot of the mountain near the ski resort, and is considered one of the gathering places for scenic B/U0026BS and tourists. They are now going to a large hotel located in the mountains and forests beside the lake. It is built against the mountain peaks and on the hot spring belt. It is the most unique and expensive hotel in the entire scenic area. As soon as they got off the car, they met Miwa Amamai, who was waiting for them at the door of the hotel. Seeing her anxious mother, Sakakihara Suzu first scolded her brother for blindly leading the way and putting everyone in danger, and then turned her attention to herself. Fortunately, my mother only looked at it once or twice and didn't say much. I know I was wrong. My brother is still apologizing to my mother. Forget it, just hope you're fine. It's hard to stay in the mountains these past 2 days, right? It's been so cold these past 2 nights. Sakakihara Suzu jumped out in time. Mom, you are wrong. We found a natural hot spring on the mountain. We went there to take a bath at night. Spa. Tianhai Mai was stunned for 3 or 4 seconds, and then her eyes wandered over her daughter, son, and the other 3 girls for a moment. She seemed to realize something. So you all take baths together at night? Sakakihara Suzu was stunned. She didn't expect that her mother would ask such a question. Her face turned red and she said, "The pond is very big. Mom, please stop thinking about it." Sakakibara was quite embarrassed and subconsciously peeked at Amamai Nanamajetsu next to him. Then he found that she was also looking at him. Tianhai Mai breathed a sigh of relief and said nothing more. It's good that everyone is back. Let's take a break today and recuperate. It will be the new year in 2 days. Let's all have a meal here to celebrate the new year. Are you celebrating the new year here? Sakakihara Suzu asked immediately. Just at the hotel, let's have a meal together and be reunited. Asterisk. Celebrate New Year at Lake Kushiro. It didn't matter where Sakakihara spent the new year, but he realized that he had not prepared any New Year's gifts this year. This guy Ling is always mocking his bastard brother, who is disrespectful every year. In order to celebrate the new year, my uncle specially rented a large room in a hot spring hotel in the scenic area so that everyone could have a New Year party. But you can't prepare nothing for the new year, right? It is necessary to prepare some New Year decorations, New Year greeting cards, New Year dishes, crabs, and special salmon from supermarket year-end promotions. And there are none of these things. Therefore, Sakakibara had no choice but to ride his motorcycle and go to the city to buy ingredients and New Year items. By the way, he also had to buy a few red envelopes and give them to Ling Yuki and the others as a token gift. What? You also want to go with me in July? Aren't you going to help Lee Yuli's mother prepare the New Year's Eve dinner? They don't need my help for the time being. Ling and Zayuki are watching TV in the room with the heater on. Sakakibara put on his helmet, glanced at the snowy road and said back, "It's quite a distance from the city, and it's still very cold. Just stay in the hotel and enjoy the heating. Why are you going to suffer with me?" Tian Haikaiminyu frowned, "Just go, don't talk so much. I care about you and yet you are so cruel." "Okay, okay, who told you to be my second wife? Listen to you. Who do you think is your second wife?" "Hiss, I was wrong. No matter what, it's great to have someone to accompany you to the city." Li Yulai wanted to accompany him, but some things could be purchased in the scenic spot. She wanted to help her mother, so she naturally lost this opportunity. Yuki is afraid of the cold, while Aling is just plain lazy. After staying in the mountains for several days, she was so frozen by the cold air that she didn't want to go out at all. When July put on his helmet and sat in the back seat of Sakakibara Raku, he immediately started the engine, gripped the handle, and started driving along the road beside Kusharo Lake towards the city. Driving down the mountain road. The Kusharo Lake passing by is beautiful, vast, and spectacular. Even in winter, it shows crystal clear blue. White geese and tourist sailboats appear on the lake at the same time, echoing the continuous snow-white mountains behind it, just like a paradise. The scenery is beautiful, but riding a motorcycle against the wind in the cold winter is quite touching. Not long after riding on the road, my body started to shiver with cold. Until Tian Haikaiminyu reached out and hugged her from behind. Even though the actual temperature was only for a moment, my heart still felt warm. The cold wind of the winter moon blew into the gaps in his coat, but he couldn't help but smile on his face. Why has Chi-Chi been so clingy to me recently? Wasn't he so fierce just now? Who clings to you? I'm just afraid that you'll die of cold in the car. He's starting to talk nonsense again. Arrive at the urban area of Asahikawa City. Not long after, the place was still decorated with red hats and Christmas trees for Christmas. In just a few days, the surrounding restaurants and residential houses all hung kadomatsu in front of their doors. The torii gate at the entrance of the small shrine was also painted with brand new red paint, transforming it into a Christmas decoration. It became a scene to welcome the new year. The motorcycle stopped in front of a large supermarket in the city. A few days ago, there were basically no people in Asahikawa City's urban area, but now there is an endless stream of people. Take it. As soon as he got out of the car and took off his helmet, Sakakihara Raku saw Nanami handing him a greeting card decorated with plum blossoms and pine trees. What's this? The first gift of the new year. It's for you. It contains the New Year's message I wrote for you. Sakakibara hesitated for 2 seconds and looked at the girl standing in front of him who was obviously thoughtful. So you are coming to the city with me in July just to give me this greeting card? If not. Sakakihara smiled and took it from her hand, and asked, why don't you wait until tomorrow or tonight during the new year to give it to me? Considering that there are so many people around you, it would be better to find a separate opportunity to send this kind of thing out in advance. It seems that Chi-Chi's little idea is that she wants to give this thing to herself alone. The greeting card looks exquisite. Gilded plum blossoms and pine trees hover on both sides of the card. In the middle of the card, there are the words "Congratulations on the New Year." You don't need to look at it to know that the letter inside the greeting card was definitely handwritten to herself in July. What did you write this year? You'll find out when you go back and open it. Sakakihara noticed that her eyes were evading. Then can I open it now and take a look? Tian Haikaiminyu paused for a second, turned away her red cheeks, and then replied, whatever you want. This fierce ant is still blushing? After giving a strange glance to the girl in front of him, Sakakihara opened the New Year's card given to him in July. Regards, brother. By the evening of December 21, 2023, the weather had turned cold. The temperature this year seems to be much lower than last year. When I take out the pen and paper, the pinprick sensation I can feel is more obvious than last year. Because of this, when I was trying to write my best wishes to my brother this year, I was slow to put pen to paper. I tried to think about whether there were any gaps or omissions in my brother's life that I needed to remind or pay attention to. But unfortunately, I have been thinking about this issue for a long time and haven't been able to think of it. This means that during this year, the brother's life has become perfect and happy, and he no longer needs external reminders or corrections. Judging from the letter I sent to my brother last year, it seems that my brother has begun to learn to take more care of himself. Therefore, this time I want to write about some things that I have never dared to write and do not want to write about, about the fact that I unintentionally raised my sister to be a cripple. Author, Wo Buletin 11 Huan Tou Lan. Chapter 517. As the end of the year approaches, even the deserted streets can't help but become lively. Everyone in the class group also began to discuss what they had done during this not-so-long vacation. As expected, the vast majority of people stay at home, watching TV series and playing games, with nothing worth talking about. However, recently Akihabara in Tokyo started its year-end sales, and the streets began to have slogans such as ultra-low price in history written in some super exciting Chinese characters. Fujino and Nishijima, two guys who often go to Akihabara together, complain that the small shops that hold events are profiteers. They actually use the trick of raising prices first and then lowering them to deceive foreign tourists. By the way, they also complain that Chinese people are really rich. Because she was sharing her life in a classmate exchange group, Sakakihara Suzu, a stinky girl, naturally couldn't help but share her experience of suffering in Hokkaido with everyone. Including but not limited to her sharing beautiful photos of the seaside with the big BMW waterbird behind her. This guy is a bitch on the inside. To the outside world, she is a well-known idol and a perfect beautiful girl. The daily photos I take are quite idol-like, and I feel very beautiful and youthful at first glance. Bored, Sakakihara took a look at the classmate communication group with his cell phone and found that when Suzu sent messages, almost no boys responded. The group was full of girls chatting one by one, so Fujino had nothing to do. We'll make jokes. But as more and more girls joined in, he began to lose his voice. The entire classmate exchange meeting turned into a women's exchange meeting. As for why you want to say it again? Sakakihara flipped it up and found that the girls were discussing lipstick and foundation. Scroll up again. Eyeshadow, eyebrow pencil, mascara, blush, lipstick, isolation cream, foundation cream, powder, eyebrow brush, eyeliner. What are these things? What about the boys? At least come out and talk about games or sneakers. This class group is hopeless. At this time, Tianhaizi, who was not often seen in the group, posted a photo. She was the only non-classmate in the group. Sakakibara took a look and saw that it seemed to be the prawns that my sister-in-law had caught fishing in the sea in Chiba Prefecture in the morning. The shrimp was quite big, and she asked her classmates in Chiba Prefecture to come to her now so that she could treat them to a big meal. It was probably because Azusa Amamai flipped through the news posted by Suzu Sakakihara just now that she learned the news that several people had died in Hokkaido. Sakakibara saw her chatting a lot with Sakakihara Suzu in the group, and then she actually sent him a private message. A chat bubble popped up for the contact with the note Zi and on the line. Xiao Li, are you not busy so early in the morning? Lying on his side on the soft white bed of the hot spring hotel, Sakakihara typed a reply, no, I just woke up and was watching everyone chatting in the communication group. And Zi, laughing. And Zi, first of all, Happy New Year, would you like Auntie to send you a red envelope? Teacher Zi, do you think I am the kind of person who is short of money? And Zi, very emoticon, I forgot, Xiao Le is now the eldest son of our Tianhai family. Sakakibara knew that his aunt was deliberately teasing him, but this title was really awkward. So why did Aunt Zi send me a private message all of a sudden? Didn't she just have a good chat with Ling? Did she want to know about the incident that happened a few days ago? Aunt Zi, no, I just want to borrow your Firebolite to drive around. Love comes to you to borrow a car. Sure enough, there is nothing wrong without going to the Three Treasures Hall. It's okay to drive it. Just don't damage it. 2 or 3 seconds later. Aunt Zi, picture. Raku Sakakihara clicked on the picture and took a look, and found that his Bugatti Firebolite was parked on the road behind Azusa Amami's fishing location. Sister-in-law, you've already opened it, why do you need to ask me? Aunt Zi, hey, Zial, how long has this car been gathering dust in the warehouse? Does a sports car need maintenance? Auntie, why don't you take the car out for a spin and help you maintain the car? This is true. If you buy it like this and store it in a warehouse, it would be such a waste of this good car. The main problem is that driving this car is too ostentatious. If you drive it a lot, no one will know that the person in this car is the young master of the Tianhai family who is rumored. Sakakihara Raku felt uncomfortable when he thought about someone giving him such a title every day. Thank you, sister-in-law. It's okay, and, I'm just so generous. This sounds really awkward. How is Yuki? The topic suddenly changed. We had talked so much before. In fact, this was the real purpose of my sister-in-law coming to chat with me. It seems that my sister-in-law still cares about Yuki. Sakakibara thought for a moment and typed a reply, Yuki is fine and has recovered well recently. Ah, that's good. In addition, I would like to remind you, Zial, that the eldest brother and the old man are currently acquiescing to Yuki's current situation. It is already good that the current situation is like this. They both know what life will be like after Yuki chooses to chase you. My aunt hates preaching the most, but I also want to remind you that it's the new year. If possible, cultivate the relationship between Yuki and everyone. Xiao Li, you also admit it. Everyone should say that. You juniors will be considered a family from now on. Family. Home. Although this word is often on the lips, in reality, it seems extremely far away. Sakakihara Raku thinks this has something to do with everyone's age and status. Although everyone matures prematurely due to various experiences, their actual age is still young. Thank you, sister-in-law, for reminding me. That's good to know. I won't say anything more. After I return to Tokyo, my aunt will treat you to the prawns I caught myself. Waiting for good news. The exchange with my sister-in-law ended. Sakakihara Raku was still thinking about a long paragraph that his sister-in-law sent just now. The relationship between Yuki and everyone is close, not close, but far away. It seems that there is a little distance between Yuki and Kiju. Usually she can't get in the middle of everyone's conversation, and she has to be taken care of by Aling. She is a pitiful little girl everywhere in life. Thinking of this, Sakakihara suddenly wanted to visit Yuki. He immediately got out of bed, pushed open the Japanese-style wooden barrier door of the hot spring hotel, and walked quickly along the cold corridor to Yuki's room not far away. Realizing that she hadn't locked the door to her room, she pushed it open and walked in. The sky had just dawned, and in the old-style hotel room, Tianhai's Higsu was sleeping peacefully, lying on the floor in the middle. She held the pillow in her arms, breathing steadily, and her white feet had already kicked the quilt to the tatami in the distance. Yuki's sleeping appearance is the cleanest, even if she kicks the sheets on the bed into a mess. Sakakibara stood at the door and looked at her for a while. Watching her sleep from a distance like this is really like watching a younger sister. Or maybe half a daughter. I think she is cute, small, and cozy. Sakakihara knelt down and sat next to her, stared at her white face for a while, and then helped her cover the quilt she had kicked away. But she didn't expect that this would wake her up. Happy, the girl slowly propped up her body. Her eyes were bleary, and she seemed to be unable to see clearly. When she raised her head, she made a light voice full of questions. It's me. We all died together. Dot. What kind of alternative good morning greeting is this? Why else would you be able to see Ellie as soon as you wake up in the morning? Dot. What kind of logic is this? Complaints are complaints. After seeing her looking at him for the first time after opening her eyes, Sakakibara thought about it seriously. Yuki should be saying that seeing herself when she wakes up is a dream. It was only in her dreams that she could see herself after waking up. Well, this little girl can always say some heart-wrenching words unintentionally. I got up early today and chatted with Aunt Zi for a while. When we talked about you, I just wanted to see if you were up. Tianhai's Higsu put her right hand on the floor and slowly turned her head to look at the snowy scene outside the hotel, but, it's not dawn yet. Can't you watch without light? The girl paused for a moment. Does Ellie like me? Going over, Sakakihara laughed and said softly, I like it very much. This sentence seemed to be beyond the girl's expectation, causing her brain to shut down for several seconds. The word like seemed to make Amami no Snow very concerned. She first sat upright and looked at the large white flower ornament she placed next to the floor, then raised her bright eyes and looked at Sakakibara Raku again. Her hands were cramped together, and she clenched the corner of the quilt tightly. After he answered the sentence, she kept staring at him. Are you happy to hear this? Happy. The voice that answered was also sweet and waxy, and there was only sincerity in the eyes that had been watching. Seeing her honest answer, Sakakihara couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Even if this sentence was a lie to Yuki, she would still be happy about it for a long time. Even if she knew that the sentence was lying to her, she would still follow behind obediently. That's it for Yuki. Simply silly. She doesn't care if someone hurts her. Sakakihara reached out and touched her head. Sometimes I always think you are too stupid, Yuki. What are you talking about? You're so stupid. She was a little girl with no feelings at first, but now she values her feelings much more important than herself. Ellie said before that I only have feelings. That's true. In fact, Yuki is so beautiful, has her own talents, and has a good personality. Someone will definitely like you in the future and be willing to take care of you every day. Are you going to drive me away? Who said that? Nale said these words. Sakakihara was stunned for a second or two, and then smiled. It's just to let you know, Yuki, that you are worthy of being cherished. I don't want to leave. Ellie is the kind of person who first appears by my side. I know. Sakakibara smiled and said, Yuki, would you like to come closer? Amami Nazuki reacted very quickly when she heard this. After she got permission, she threw herself directly into Sakakibara Raku's arms. The impact was so severe that Sakakibara's chest was shaking. Yuki, you are not gentle either. Ellie said it can be hugged. That didn't let you run in directly. Because this is a way to express special affection. Sakakihara Raku felt that this method was familiar for some reason. Who taught you this? Belle. She is indeed a bastard girl. Happy. Amami no Yuki suddenly fell on Sakakibara Raku's lap, her face facing his looking down face. How? Ling told me that she will also call you brother in a few decades. You know too? I'm afraid I've told everyone about Ling. I want that too. You want to come to me when you are dozens of years old? Yes, Tianhai's Higsu responded softly, her bright eyes looking up were illuminated by the light outside the hotel and shone slightly, but I'm afraid I won't be able to lie in bed like this every day. I'm acting coquettishly on my legs. However, I will still have fun. What does Yuki want to do with me in the future? Have tea with Ellie, drink coffee with Ellie, and if Ellie is willing, I can also play the guitar for Ellie. It is actually not difficult to imagine this scene decades later. Sakakihara thought to herself, Yuki, she was planning to spend the next few decades to maintain her love for him. Haruka thought of such a scene, and then looked at the girl lying quietly on his lap like a cat, who could not feel something. Sakakibara knew he had it. Therefore, I really want Yuki in front of me to live a good life every day from now on. From my own perspective, this may have been dragging down Yuki. But for Yuki, she is very satisfied if she can respond to her like this and look at her occasionally. Ellie, it's New Year's Eve tomorrow. Tonight, let's all get together and have a good meal. This is the first New Year that Ellie has spent with me. It's the second one, Yuki, you forgot again. Is it the second one? Have you forgotten that we went to the shrine to draw lots last year? Forgot. Then you have to remember it carefully this time. Many times, only a few things can be written down in a year. If you ask me to recall what happened 4 or 5 years ago, I won't be able to remember most of it. I still remember Ellie rejecting my confession. Why do you always remember some unhappy things? I still remember Ellie peeking at me taking a shower. As I said, you took it off yourself. Ellie Ping likes to see girls naked. I like to watch it, but I will never say it. By the way, Yuki, why are you asking? Yesterday, and the night before last, I saw Ellie and Zyoki at the hot spring. Sakakibara quickly stopped her from talking. You don't need to say this. Suzuki saw it too. Ling still keeps peeking. Ling. Yuki, you better stop snitching on your sister Ling. Okay. Then I want to ask Ellie a question. I am listening. Everyone will get together happily next year, right? For some reason, when I heard Tianhai's Higsu asking this question, I still felt a little reluctant. Like the emotion of parting. Immediately, Sakakihara touched the girl's head and smiled slightly. Definitely. Does Yuki have any New Year's wishes? Yao Ellie can hold me for a while every morning. It's okay to hug you for a while, but it will be difficult to hug you for a while. I can't go to your room to hug you every day. Then let's change to Xiaoqi, Xiaoju, Ling, and Ellie. Everyone will be happy. Don't forget to include you, Yuki. Tianhai's Higsu sat up, then it will be me, Zyoki, Zyoju, Ling and Ellie. In the next year, everyone will live together happily. Sakakihara looked at the girl in front of him and smiled again. That's for sure.